put yourself in a frame where you're thinking the right way, right? Where you're thinking positively, you put things in perspective. I think, certain things like that, I just love his story. I think a lot of people in his situation would have maybe made a different type of decision, to feel bad for themselves, or, obviously not think as creatively, as constructively, as positive, and been a leader. And really, I love that message. I thought that it was really fitting because obviously as a division, our name is Legacy, right? I forget who I was talking to the other day. It might've been Jada, it might've been Devin. And I was going to send them the video, and I was like, holy shit, like I should play that for everyone at like the meeting. And I love those. I love that story, right? And to me, stories are really powerful. One of the things that I think that at times we need to remind ourselves is that every day we're writing our story, right? That's the type of thinking that motivated me to choose the word legacy to define us. And really, you're the first group of leaders for our division. Like you have the ultimate opportunity to leave a legacy, to raise the bar and create a standard for other people. And I genuinely believe that we're working towards building an organization and offering an opportunity that will change people's lives. And I would say the reason that at times I'm tough on, certain people on our team is because I want you to leave a better version of you than when you came, right? And whether that's for you being here for a couple months or years or potentially longer, I want you to look back and know that you leveled up and that you took advantage of your opportunities and that you grew. And really, I'm fired up for the things that you're going to learn today, the stuff that we're going to share. And one thing that I would say to you right now is I would put myself in the right mindset to get the most out of the day, right? So your mindset is going to determine how much you get out of today. We have some really good stuff that we're going to go through. So in a second, I'm going to share a couple things, kind of like what we're building as a division. We're going to go through certain things to maximize your summer potential, learn about future opportunities. I'll explain how we choose our leadership academy candidates. We're going to learn some growth and leadership principles. I'm actually really, really excited for those talks. I'm excited for everything. You're going to learn, introduce you to some amazing people. So a bunch of you have met Earl or heard him speak before. Earl's going to hop on and speak. And also Sam Gervasi, who is right now number 6 in the Silver Cup out of every branch office in the entire company, who worked out of our office last fall. He's a 19-year-old, is on pace to earn over $50,000 this summer. She will be, talking about her leadership experience. And then we're going to share some upcoming events and dates. But one thing I want everyone to do to create the right mindset and to make sure that they're intentional about what they want to get at it today is I want you to I'll give you, right now it's 11:15. I'll give you 3 minutes. And I would write this down and I would pick 1 to 3 things that you want to get out of the meeting and then 1 to 3 things that you want to get out of the day, right? So being intentional to me is so important. So I'm going to give everyone like 2 or 3 minutes. I would write this down and I would pick exactly what I want to get out of the day.
can't remember the mental things.
No. All right. So, what I want to go through first is I want to share some things in terms of what I'm excited about and what we're building as a division. And one of the things that I would say that's funny is so I would say as a manager, there's a lot of things that you might do that a lot of people don't like notice. So every year when managers go out and open their office, I always get like texts. I think Jacob texted me his first day and was like, "I'm sorry for everything I've ever done." And was like, "Now I know what it's like to be a manager." And I was like, "Jacob, it's your first day, like you right?" So I would say a lot of the times you don't like necessarily see all the things that go on behind the scenes. And as a manager, in terms of building a division, you don't necessarily see all the things that go on behind the scenes, right? And one of the things that I did when I was promoted is I sat down and I started thinking of these like pillars, right? Things that we could build around in terms of creating a successful organization. And one of the five that I picked were the first one is can I mentality, right? And I heard this and I loved it. And it was a constant and never ending improvement, right? Which is can I, right? And I think that is so valuable where it's I'm never done learning, right? Like lifelong learners are lifelong leaders, right? And I love the mentality of evolve or die, right? So I think that there's a lot of businesses, right, that that were very successful at one point that just didn't find ways to evolve and continue to grow, right? I think the ultimate example of that is like Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster, I don't know if you know this, but at one point Netflix offered to sell themselves to Blockbuster for like $500 million and take over their online streaming, right? And some of you don't even really know what Blockbuster is, but Blockbuster was a huge, right? I just saw Elisa roll her eyes at me. She's like, Blockbuster? Those are like those empty buildings, right? But the reality is they stuck with what they knew, which was brick and mortar, and they didn't think for the future, right? I don't know if you know this, but at one point, Google offered to sell themselves to Yahoo for $100 million, right? It's crazy, right? Yahoo kind of sucks now, right? But Yahoo at one point was a big player, and they did not continue to evolve. And they're not like dead, but they're basically dead, right? The second thing is integrity. And this to me is so important. So to me, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of an integrity gap, right? And basically an integrity gap is the gap or the difference between the things that you say you are going to do and what you do, right? So one of our missions in life should be to constantly be closing that integrity gap, right? So there's an Eric Thomas talk that I love where he just says, basically the reason that a lot of people aren't successful is because they don't do the things that they say they're going to do, right? He's like, if you did 60% of the things you said you were going to do, you'd be pretty good, right? If you did 70% of the things, you'd be real good. If you did 80% of what you say you're going to do, you're going to be great. And the reality is a lot of people just don't follow through on what they say they're going to do. And to me, integrity and pride in what you say and following through is so important. The third thing is accountability. And for that, I put to ourselves and to each other, right? So I personally think that obviously self-accountability, that accountability from inside is so valuable and important. But I feel like the best organizations are the ones where people hold each other accountable, right? Where people say, hey, it might be a peer. It doesn't need to be, a teacher or a coach or a boss to say, hey, like, you're not the best version of yourself. How can we get you to a better place? Like, you're not you right now, right? It's like you hand them the Snickers, right? You're like, you're not you when you're right. So to me, I don't know, did any of you watch the Michael Jordan, what's it called? The Last Ride documentary? I don't know if anyone watched that. So the reason the Bulls were so good is because Michael Jordan held everyone accountable, right? There's like a part where he's like in tears because he's like, people thought I was such a bad person and blah, blah, blah. And one of his teammates is like, he cursed at us, he yelled at us, he might have swung at us, he threw balls at us, and like he held us to the highest level. And he's like, and he was a hell of a teammate, right? And the reality is, when everyone holds each other accountable and raises the standards for each other, those are the best organizations. You know what I mean? Like everyone needs that. Everyone needs to be challenged. Everyone needs that accountability, right? I always say that by stepping up, right, and holding yourself to a higher standard, you even have the opportunity to show people what's possible. You could be that ripple, right? That rock that's thrown in the water that creates that ripple that shifts everything around you, right? I think the next one is really important. It's just pride in everything you do, right? So one of the things that I always say about the rep position is that it's an opportunity that more than a job, right? So we have certain people that want to work full time, right? And we have certain people that want to work 10, 15 hours a week. And that, whatever your goal is, right? Whatever you are excited about doing, you should do that, but you should always bring your best, right? Like you should, when you are working, right, be the best version of yourself, right? I think that the next one is like the sub point of that pursuit of mastery is super powerful. It's like in anything you do, you should never want to go through the motions. You should always work towards being the best you, right? Like, I don't think that you should ever have an ego, right? Which is actually the next one. But I think that you should always hold yourself to the highest standard, right? Whether that's I'm working 10 hours a week or I'm working 40 hours a week. It's like, okay, well, when I am working, what does the best me look like, right? And then I have always hungry, right? I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but heard of it. There's a book. It's called "Good is the Enemy of Great," right? And I think that I think it's the truth. Is like so many people get content or complacent because they get good at the job, right? Or they get a few good paychecks, right? And the reality is, a lot of times, good is the biggest enemy of great because it's like, yeah, like you might be good, but what does that next level look like, right? There's so many different levels, right? And everyone here has the opportunity to level up, and that should excite you more than anything else, right? I always say, I used to when I ran the introduction expectations portion of training, I always used to say, like, we want to get better. Like, I want to get better. I'm not the best version of myself, right? Like, it would suck if I was the best version of myself, right? Like, that would suck. It's like, I have nowhere left to go. Like, no, like, what? I'm just waiting to die, right? No, it's, I know that I could get better, and I'm excited about that. You know what I mean? So it's always hungry. It's like, what's that next step? What's that next level look like? And then the last thing is humble, right? It's having that never arrived mentality. There's room to grow, right? There's a phrase that Earl taught me. It's called positive dissatisfaction, right? It's you're not satisfied, but you're positive, right? Like you're excited about stuff. And one of the things that I would say is one of the things I've been saying for the past like 2 or 3 years is that I feel like in life, you're never really exactly where you want to be, but you're always exactly where you need to be, right? And it's being humble. There's things that everyone can learn from each other, right? It's never having the mentality of, I know everything, or this person can't teach me anything, right? It's looking for ways to learn and grow and be a better version of yourself. And I would say, to me, some success principles are, competitive, but respectful, right? Is that find a way mentality, right? That to me is like probably the most important thing is just having a mentality of find a way, right? It's, hey, you know what, right now, I don't have the amount of referrals that I want. What can I do to get more leads, right? The people haven't been answering when I've been calling. What can I do to get more demos, right? Like I haven't been getting as many referrals. What can I do to get better, right? And that's something that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but it's how can I make shit happen, right? It's win the day, right? And I think that is something that a lot of people, if a lot of people develop the mindset of, imagine if every day the night before, right, every evening you mapped out what your next day should look like and what a win for that day would look like, right? Imagine if you just knew, okay, when you woke up, you said to yourself, this is how I win the day, right? Like the reality is, like life isn't won all at once. It's one day at a time, right? push period, for example, let's say it's a 17-day push. You don't win a 17-day push in one day. You win it 17 days in a row, right? It's having the mentality of eliminating mediocrity, right? Holding yourself to a higher standard, constant improvement, right? It's developing yourself personally. I don't want just good people at selling knives, right? I want good people. I want happy, healthy people that are growing themselves personally and professionally. Right? I want you to bring your best when you're with us. I want you to create consistency, because consistency is the catalyst for success, right? That's how you create momentum, right? Instead of saying to yourself, I'm going to have a big phone jam, and then I'm going to wait till I have no demos and make more phone calls. It's having consistent action so that you're always moving forward and your results start stacking on top of each other, right? It's understanding that complacency is the enemy of consistency, and consistency is the catalyst for success. So don't get complacent, right? And what we're building is obviously right now we're 2020. We just created a new division, right? And that's exciting because there's so many opportunities available, right? Next year is when we elevate, right? The year after that is when we start actually competing on a regional level. The year after that is where we dominate. And then 2024 is when we take over and we start breaking records, right? So what does that look like? This year, it's 5 offices and going after a $2.5 million district team, right? Or a division as a whole, right? Next year, it's 10 offices, right? That could be a combination of full-time district offices and branch managers, some of you stepping up and stepping into a leadership role and really growing yourself, stepping out of your comfort zone and going for 3.5 million, right? The year after that, 15 part and full-time offices, having a $5 million year. Then 2023, stepping that up to 20 offices between our full-time and our part-time. And so this is one of the things that that is untraditional about our circumstance. So normally there's like a predefined territory for a division where you can open offices, right? And so our circumstances are super different, right? So in New Jersey, there's the Prime division and there's us. So Prime is Essex County and Bergen County and then Somerset County and then Monmouth County, right? And we're right now Morris, Sussex, Middlesex, Mercer, Ocean, right? And so basically what Earl said to me is, I'm like, that's not a huge territory and stuff. And he said, okay, have so many leaders that you earn the territory, right? He's like, whoever has the higher quality candidates gets the territory for their division and can open offices in the best place, right? Which to me, I'm like, fuck yeah, like I want to earn it, right? And 2024 is about breaking records. It's about having 25 offices between our full-time and our part-time, being the first company, our first division in the company to do $10 million a year in a year, right? So what's in it for you, right? The first thing I love the concept of endless opportunity, right? It's endless opportunity, right? It could be, we have career sales positions. We have career management positions. We have obviously our short-term branch positions. We have office assistant positions. It's the opportunity to be a part of something special. It's really the experience that is going to be a catalyst for growth at a rate that's unnatural. It's the opportunity to know what it's like to build something from absolutely nothing. And really, you could be the reason that we hit our goals. And to me, that's like something that like always excited me, is helping other people grow and being a part of something together, something special, right? So there's tons of different roles that we have, right? We have our key staff, and which is basically our summer leadership academy position. Basically, the key staff are the key players in our division. We're basically running a divisional key staff. The meetings are Sunday. It's 6:30 to 7. It's a higher level meeting. It's basically the people that I want to personally influence on a weekly basis. And then we have a phone jam from 7 to 8:30, right? There's assistant manager in training, which is basically the introductory assistant manager, staff spot. I would say assistant managers, their role is to help the organization succeed by helping build the team and helping build the people on our team, right? So in terms of the overall organization, if you simplified it, if we sell a lot, the team is successful, right? Like if that's in the simplest level, obviously there's like a ton of little nuances, but if you simplify it, our goal is to sell a lot of Cutco or to sell a lot of knives, right? And obviously in terms of the team, I would say that breaks down to two parts. It breaks down to the size of our team and then the strength of those on our team, right? So our assistant managers help us with the advertising and recruiting process, and they help us with working with the people on our team and helping them be more successful, right? Taking PDI, doing coaching calls, sitting down with people and helping them be successful, taking them field training, leading by example, right? Then there's our sales manager position, which is a full-time assistant position. There is our branch manager, which is the opportunity to run an office just for a summer, which I'm not going to lie to you, that this summer, the fact that we figured out how to run virtual offices is something that, in my opinion, only enhances the branch opportunity, because it really, like for example, Jacob and Thomas don't have offices, right? They don't have expenses, right? Like they're working out of the red rooms, right? And obviously in the future, they would probably either have the opportunity. It's basically a decision. It's in the future where they can open an actual physical location, or they could even just work out of our office or from home if they wanted to, right? We have career sales professional positions. So we call it CSP. We have our fair and show team, our service call elite program. We have business gifts and realtor gifts. We had 3 or 2 reps in the company last year who personally, right, by themselves, right, 2 people who personally sold over $1 million by themselves each last year, right? Which is like, they earned over $500,000 selling Cutco. That's pretty fucking crazy, right? Like that is crazy, right? There's certain people like Kadeem Samuels, who has a full-time engineering job, and he does our fair and show program on the weekends and like during the holidays, that type of stuff. He lives in Florida. He's from New Jersey, and he'll do our mall kiosk program. He'll do fairs and shows on the weekends. He has such a large customer base that he does past customer marketing, where he sends out 1 email every month, and 9 of them are like recipes or like knife tips, and 3 of them are sales, right? So like one of them will be a summer sale, one of them will be like a holiday sale, and one of them, I forget when his other one is, maybe like around Valentine's Day. And he sells about $300,000 a year from past customer marketing and doing our fair and show event program on the weekends, right? There is obviously the pilot sales manager, right? That's a role that Yacht is filling right now. I would say in terms of the most important people in our organization as a legacy, it's my pilot and our DMs, our district managers. And that's something that in the future, when Yada goes and runs her own office, we're going to need to fill some big shoes, right? And then there's the district manager opportunity, which is a career sales path, which is what Lily is. So one of the things that Lily and I talked about when she went to open is right now she's 21 years old, right? You're not 22 yet. You're October. Are you October? Yeah. Are you October 2nd?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I felt like I said it the way the guy that said the cornbread thing. He was like, cornbread at work? Hell yeah.
It's
right?
banana bread. What?
Or banana bread, whatever. Yeah, same shit. All right. So one of the things that I spoke about with Lily is her goal at some point in the next few years is to go back and get her, is it master's? So her master's in psychology. And one of her goals that she's working towards is building her organization in Middlesex to the point where she has enough leaders where it doesn't need her to run and operate on a day-to-day basis. And in the next few years, go back and having her own organization that is running and creating obviously income for her. And she would it's not like she wouldn't work at all, but she would more so be managing the managers, go to either Princeton or Rutgers and get her master's in marketing. To me, that's a really cool opportunity. So honestly, to me, I think too many people undervalue the district opportunity. I graduated from school. My first 3 years, I averaged over $100,000 a year income. I won 3 trips or 4 trips every year. And literally, if I wanted to, after my first couple of years, I could have pretty much gotten any job that I wanted. But for me, I was excited about continuing to build my own business and having the freedom and flexibility of running my own organization. So moving forward, in terms of you moving forward into some of these roles, I would jot down any of your questions and your thoughts. I would take good notes today. I would let me and your manager know where your mind is and what your questions are after this event. At the very end, I have like a quick survey thing, form thing. I like forms. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like it's just way more organized that everyone's gonna fill out. But I would say the first step would be our summer divisional key staff, right? Which, like I said, is Sundays. It's invitation. It's the people that are basically the key people, the leaders of our organization, and our summer leadership academy, which is something that we haven't done in the past. But it's basically, I'm pretty sure it's Thursday at 11. Earl is running a regional call, and it's like awesome. Earl is honestly, like, if you haven't heard Earl speak yet, Earl's like, actually, I think Bella might have been the best one. She's like, he makes me so like excited and calm at the same time. And I feel like that's like such a good way of, like, Earl's just the man. And our first official leadership academy event is going to be the day after Summer Conference 2, SC2. It's a regional event. That's an invitation only. I'll kind of go through some dates a little bit later, but we do have assistant manager openings for now. We have assistant manager openings for the fall. One of the things that I have been trying to figure out is, like, the crazy thing is, obviously now that we're doing things virtually, every year when people go back to school, there isn't that much opportunity for them to continue to lead as an assistant manager. But now, like, we're going to, have it, like, virtual changes everything. And I'm not going to lie to you. I would never, like I said, I've said this a million times, I would never wish for a pandemic in a million years. And I wish, like, that we were all in front of each other right now. But I said at the beginning of the summer, I said that this could be a reason that, like, our company elevates, right? And it will be a reason that we elevate, right? A lot of the times, the biggest innovation comes from necessity, right? And times of change and, where things are crazy and all of that. So my expectations of leaders, right? It's someone who's on time. To me, that's like one of the most, like, important things because it's just a respect level, right? It's someone who has a positive attitude, right? And that to me is so important, right? Like, instead of complaining, it's somebody who's looking for solutions, who lifts other people up, right? Everyone either has a positive or a negative effect on the people around them, right? And that's something to be conscious of. It's based on my actions and the things that I'm saying and what I do. How am I affecting the people around me, right? It's someone who's prepared, right? It's someone who's accountable and dependable. I think that's, like, super important, right? And that's something to ask yourself is, like, am I someone who others can depend on, right? It's someone who follows the program and does things the right way, right? And that to me is really important for somebody in a leadership role, because I want to be able to point at, I like to use Jacob as an example a lot of the times, because Jacob had a ton of success, but he did it the right way. And being able to say, hey, like, Jacob did it the right way, and use him as an example makes it so much more powerful, right? When we're coaching and teaching, it's someone who's coachable. I think that's, like, I would say, to me, attitude, work ethic, and coachability are the things that bring success into other people's lives, right? So, like, for example, V is one of the most coachable humans on the entire planet. And that's what made him such an amazing rep, is because his first summer back, he was a rep when I was an assistant manager, but he wasn't a good rep. So, like, $30,000 over 2 years with, like, $190 average order. Never had more out of his fast start, never had more than, like, $1,100 a week. Quit the business, left, came back when I took over. That summer, we got him to a, like, $800 average order. And he had 3 10K plus weeks, sold like $60,000 that summer. And one of the things that he said to me is, I was like, dude, I love how coachable you are. And he said, he was actually listening to Eric Thomas. And he said that Eric Thomas said something about like developing the mindset that what I said was food and that he was starving. Right. And that whole summer, he kept saying like, knowledge is the new money, get you some. Right. And like, that was his thing. It was like, I'm leveling up. Like, I'm just so hungry to learn. Right. And then it's effort. And like, I'm going to say this a lot of different times. Effort doesn't mean you need to work always. But what it does mean is when you are working, bring your best. Right. So personally, Vector looks really good on a resume, like very, very good. But I could genuinely say that Vector at the highest level is something that cannot be matched, right? Vector for a branch, right? And actually, you know what? This actually just popped into my head. This is something that I do not do enough sharing. So another cool thing about branch is, I don't know if you guys know this, but you could get all the way up to 50% commission. But at 50% commission, you need to be at $150,000 in career sales. Any of Thomas's and Jacob's branch sales count for their career sales. So at the end of the summer, their career sales are going to be way up there, and then they stay there forever, which is another perk of branch. And another really cool thing about branch is a lot of branches, and we're figuring out the dynamic for this summer, but the usual branch is like building their team in May, June, and like halfway through July. Usually they stop like recruiting and interviewing and training, and they start selling. So they start selling with their reps. So like basically they have like a team of 10 or 15 reps. Then they start selling with them for the push. And for July, August, and September, that branch, regardless of where they are in career sales, earns straight 50% of what they sell, which is not bad. I can tell you that, right? You sell $1,000 straight 500, right? You sell $2,000, 1,000, right? You sell $5,000, 2,500, right? So, which is one of the reasons that our branches, a lot of our top branches will earn 30, 50, sometimes up to like $75,000 in the summer, which is life-changing money for a student, right? So I have a couple things that I've been wanting to teach that I'm really excited about teaching. And the first thing I want to go through was planning, reflecting, and improving, right? So I would say that one of our biggest areas of opportunity as a team is setting goals, right? And I've taught this for years. I never always like put it on a slideshow, right? And I think that this is like a really good analogy, right? So your goal is a destination, right? Your goal is where you want to go, right? I'm at point A, I want to go to point B. So one thing that I will tell you is if you don't have a goal, you probably heard me say this, you're already lost, right? And there's been certain points in my life where I felt like I had very little control in my life, right? And I was just like floating around and things were happening to me, not for me. And one of the things that is consistent with all of those times is I didn't have anything I was working towards, right? So a lot of things were very meaningless because I wasn't working towards anything. I was just waking up and going through the motions, right? So having goals is one of the most valuable things you can do for yourself, because once you create that, you can start working towards it and you can create that plan, right? So to me, your plan is your destiny, is your directions, right? So you know where you want to go. Then once you know where you want to go, right, you have a specific goals, right? You don't need just one. Then you could say to yourself, what are the things that I need to do to accomplish this, right? And you break it down. And what I would do is I would break it down into action steps, right? Or break it down into smaller goals and then break those down into action steps, right? So it's like, in order to have a $10,000 week, right, I would probably need to put in, depending on your average order, like 20 to 40 orders, right? Which means I would need to do X amount of demos, which means that I would need to make X amount of calls, which means that then once you have those action steps, right, you have the directions, you have your plan, then you put that in your schedule, right? So it's like, okay, well, if I want to do 20 demos, I need to make X amount of calls. I'm going to phone at this time, and this time, right? And what that does is it gives you the vehicle that will get you there in the most efficient manner, right? That's what's going to get you the fastest. So if you just don't have a schedule, right, you could have a plan of things that you want to accomplish, but if you don't know when you're going to do them, you leave it up to chance, right? And then having purpose behind what you do is that fuel that keeps you going, right? So I would say if you don't have purpose, right, if you don't know, like your goal shouldn't just be, I want to earn 10 grand this summer, right? Your goal should be, I want to earn 10 grand so that I can and allocate that money in certain areas and figure out why that's important to you, right? Like your goal shouldn't just be one, or your why shouldn't just be one level. It should be multiple levels, right? So it's like, okay, I want to earn 10 grand. Why? Why do you want to earn 10 grand? Right? And, you know, I want to have 3 grand saved for when I go back to school. I want to put 3 grand in a Roth IRA or mutual fund, right? I want to, you know, be able to help my parents pay for some of my semester, right? And then it could even be on top of that. It's like, why? Why is that important to you? Right? And so I sat down with Joey yesterday and we went deep on his goals, right? And he texted me this morning and was like, dude, I just did my first demo where I shared the goals and it was big. It was huge. It was Galley 5 recs. And so his goals were, his first one was that he wanted to improve his communication skills. His second one was that he wanted to help his parents pay for school. And his third one was networking. And we ended up changing his first one to, he wanted to work on developing a professional skill set such as X, Y, or Z. And then we went through why he wanted to do that, right? And then his second one, which was he wanted to help his parents pay for school. I'm not gonna lie to you, I came up with this, and I'm gonna brag about it. But we came up with the verbiage of that his parents aren't in the best place financially, and he made a decision not to be a financial burden. And I was like, right? Like, that's like fire. I thought that was fire, right? And he was like, so, and through working one of the things that we put in there was that the position isn't easy and he's going to have to work really hard. But by doing so, he has the opportunity to impact the day that his parents retire. Right. And that's something that is incredibly important to him and that he wants to take control of, right? Like if he could contribute, right? So he's already earned about 10 grand this summer. He's already at 40% with half the summer left. If he goes out and has 100K summer, right? He would work his ass off, but he would earn what, $30,000 this summer, over $30,000. And if he could contribute $15,000 to his parents so that they don't need to take out loans for his college, imagine if he did that every year, right? If he did that for the next 3 years, that'd be almost $50,000 that they didn't need to take out loans that they could put towards their retirement, right? And then the last one was instead of just networking, it was like his goal is to go out and build professional relationships with people of all different fields, but especially in his field, so that he could potentially set himself up to land his dream job out of school through his pre-existing relationships that he builds through this opportunity. Right. And he told me like that the woman literally, he said that the woman said like 10 different things during his demo about how much she respected him and loved his goals and stuff. Right. But with that type of purpose, do you think like, I mean, the kid has grind already, like, and he's had those where I just helped him put those into words. But do you think that like phoning is that big of a deal when you have those powerful goals? No, right? So it's having purpose behind your goals, right? And that's what keeps you going, right? So I would say one of the biggest things that everyone should do to work towards getting better at, because this is going to make you a better student. It's going to make you a happier, more successful version of yourself in every facet of your life, is work on getting better at planning, right? And I have some planning tips for you, right? So the first thing is don't only plan work, right? Plan time personally, right? Plan time with friends or parents. It could be religious things if you're religious, school stuff. Have a plan where you map out your week and you put all of the things that you want to do, right? It could be, I like calling them, instead of obligations, non-negotiables, right? It's all the stuff that you want to do that makes you happy, that you don't want to negotiate with. So something that Rob said to me my first year as a manager that I never heard him say that I loved was I asked him to speak on a conference call, and he's like, what do you want me to talk about? And I was like, I want you to talk about sacrifice, right? And he's like, what do you mean sacrifice? And I'm like, dude, I have your planner from 2011, right? He was his planner is right here. This was his junior year of college, right? And his junior year of college, he took 20 credits a semester. He had a 3.7 GPA. He went on 13 trips, and he personally sold $198,000, right? And it was all in-home, so he drove to every demo, right? He also lived in Monmouth County, but worked out of the Middlesex office, so he had to drive like almost an hour to his office whenever he went to his office. And I was like, dude, like you sacrificed. And he's like, I never looked at it from that perspective. He's like, yeah, were there certain things like he's like, I didn't do the bullshit that most college kids do. Like I wasn't very good at FIFA, but he's like, I sat down and I designed the lifestyle that I wanted to live, and I lived that, right? Like I knew what I want to get out of life. And I put all of those things that were important to me there. He's like, I went on 13 trips that year. I visited like 8 of my friends at school. I went to a little road trip with my brother. I went to Ireland. I went to either Ireland or Budapest. He went to the Caribbean 3 times. He went to Vegas. He's like, yeah, I might not have done some of the little things that other people do, but I still hung out with my friends. Like I never missed an event. And by planning your personal stuff, you put your non-negotiables in first, then you plan when you are working, right? So I would also say one of the things that a lot of people should do is they should plan when they're working and when they're not working, right? This was something for V that took him to that next level. Is we decided that basically that he was going to work a 40-hour week, right? And he was like, I'm going to do this for 3 weeks, see what my results are, and then determine if I want to keep it going. So his schedule was Sunday from 7 to 9, right? The team meeting. And then he did from Monday to Friday, he did an 8 a.m. phone jam. And Monday to Thursday, he worked till 5 or till 4. He did 8 to 4. And then on Friday, he did 8 to like 12:30. And then every weekend, he would go down to the shore that summer when he sold $120,000 that summer. Friday afternoon at like 12:30, maybe like once or twice he would like work till 2 and then go down the shore. And he would go down the shore to his fiance or his wife now, her shore house. And he would go down there Friday afternoon. He would come back Sunday, like in the mid-afternoon. He sold $120,000 that summer, and he made 60 grand as a 21-year-old, right? So his decision was he was like, I'm going to pick when I'm working, and I'm either going to be doing demos during those times or booking demos during those times, right? And his first week, his mentality was, I'm either going to be on a demo or in the office, right? And obviously for right now, you guys can come to the office whenever. I really don't care. But it would be like on the demo or on Zoom, right? And I remember that first week, he was pretty bored. So he made a mission to book a bunch of demos so that he wasn't bored, right? But he treated the job like a job, and he got really good. The second thing is planning to plan, right? So what I mean by that is I would have a time on a weekly basis that you set aside 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour to reflect on your last week and to plan your next week, right? And this is like one of the things that for me for years was like my biggest downfall. It's because like I would sit down, I would like take a couple hours, I'd plan, and then I never took time to like, I never had time set aside to plan from there or to like look at my plan, right? I would get a weekly planner. So I suggest Passion Planner, right? I love Passion Planner. I would get one that is a weekly breakdown that you could see each day, and you have your hour by hour breakdown, right? And if you are part of our alliance, you're going to get a free Passion Planner. But yeah, so I would get a weekly planner so that you can block off time so that you could create a plan for yourself, right? A tip that I have for you is I would create a consistent baseline schedule, right? And I would tweak it on a weekly basis, right? So like this was another mistake that I made is I hated making schedules because it was never like, I felt like I kept having to like change it. But what I realized is having that schedule as a baseline and moving things around is way better than having to start from scratch each week, right? And if you have a consistent schedule, you're going to get consistent results, right? A lot, like some of you may have heard me and or Jacob or someone say this. There were times at a rep where I felt like I wasn't, like the position wasn't consistent, right? And I had a conversation with this rep. His name's Tyler Park, the #1 demo rep in company history. I'd say he's #1, V's #2. And I had a conversation with Tyler, and I was like, dude, I'm frustrated. My results are inconsistent. And he's like, I don't think that's really true, because you have an average order, right, and an average closing percentage, and your commission percentage only goes up. You have an average amount of demos that it takes you to book demos, right? Obviously, there might be 1 or 2 off weeks, which usually are offset by 1 or 2 really good weeks. But he's like, the numbers are consistent. The pay is consistent or gets better. The thing that's inconsistent is you. And I was like, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I probably should do a morning phone jam or 2 this week, right? So one thing I would say is have a consistent baseline schedule, right? For phone times, for meetings, for planning, for family and friends stuff. And then obviously on a week-to-week basis, if you have that baseline schedule, then move a couple things around when times change, right? So one of the things that I've sat down with a bunch of people, my goal over the next few weeks is to really sit down with like everyone. And for everyone that I've sat down with, this is the schedule that I have suggested, right? Sunday evening phone jam, 7 to 8:30. I think that is one of the best, if not the best phone time of the entire week, right? And then I said, obviously the team meeting is an evening phone jam. And then if you did Tuesday and Friday morning, you would have so many demos and you would be so consistent, right? And one of the things that I'm a firm believer on is your phone jams are different when you go into that phone jam with demos booked instead of having to go in with a blank schedule and feeling like you need every demo, right? And then I would sit down at the beginning of the week, right? And I would figure out what I want to accomplish that week, right? I would figure out a focus area for each of the areas of my life, right? This is a conversation that I had with someone the other day where I said to them, what if every week you picked one thing that you want to focus on really like getting good at, right? And it could be this week, it could be closing, or it could be leads, or it could be whatever. And everything that you did in terms of learning and like every like area where you said to yourself, like, was I the best me, was all dependent on that one focus area, right? And you had that focus, right? And you switch that every week. And you really like just focused on improving and getting much better at one area of your life, or one area in each of the areas of your life, right? So it could be in your personal life, it could be a relationship with one of your friends, right? Or your parents, right? Or whatever, like learning. I think that, learning on your own is important, not just like school or work. Like you should have things that you want to improve at. If you pick to focus each week, I think that that'd be really powerful, right? And in terms of knowing what you want to accomplish that week, I would sit down and I would make a list of everything that you want to do. And then you could figure out when you want to do it. You put a time next to it, right? You accomplish the things that you want to accomplish so that you could get to the places you want to get to, right? And then each day I would sit down and I would look at my next day, right? This is something that I have. Oh yeah. By the way, Yada and Sean, you both owe me $10. Give me.
It's my day off.
I don't care. So I think I did a thing with Yada and Sean where every day they need to. Yeah, Yada, you're sending it to me.
I thought that every day off I didn't need to.
All right, we'll figure that out later after you send me $10. So I did a thing with them where they need to send me their focus 5 for the next day every night by 9 p.m. And if they don't, the first time they owe me $10, and then every time it doubles that they don't do that. And the reason that we're doing that, right? Billy's like, fuck that, I quit. The reason that they're doing that is because imagine if you knew your 5 most important things you need to accomplish that next day, and you woke up, it could be intentional, and you knew what that win looked like, right? And I would say that is one of the biggest things that will shift your results and happiness. So a concept that I love that I learned my first SC1 is something called the decision train, right? And the decision train is basically there is always something driving the train, right? And most people, the way that their decisions work, the way that they operate, right, is the way that they feel determines their actions, and that shapes their decisions, right? So like obviously the way that someone feels determines what they do, and based on those results, that's going to set their self-belief, their goals, like those types of things, what they feel like is possible, right? And the most successful people on this planet, the way that they operate is their decisions, right? They sit down and they figure out, oh, hey, these are my goals. These are what I'm going to do. Their decisions shape their actions, which then creates their feelings, right? So the negative behind when your feelings drive the train is there's certain times where you just don't feel like doing the things that you know you need to do, right? The person who taught me this, his name is Trent Booth, and he talked like his example was like his marriage, right? And he's like, there's certain times when you're married for a while where you're frustrated with the person you're married to, right? And like the reason for what he said is, and I agree with this, is he's like, so many people, the reason that divorces happen a lot of the times is they feel really good at first, right? And then all of a sudden you might go through a period where you're frustrated with something, or something happens, and then you stop doing the things that you said you were going to do, right, at the beginning of your marriage because you don't feel like it, right? And that changes the entire dynamic of your marriage, right? And it's acting yourself into feeling, right? And he tells like this story about him being frustrated with his wife. Honestly, it's such a funny story. I'm not going to even do it justice, but he tells like a really good like story. And it's like what he said is he made a decision when he got married that he was going to, regardless of how he felt, he was always going to do the things that he said. He was like, when he was upset, he was still going to do date night, right? He was always going to be a gentleman. He was always going to like do the little things. And that right there creates that feelings, and it makes that relationship, strong and continue to go on, right? Or I love to use the example of there's certain times where I almost need to be a motivational speaker to get myself out of my car to go into the gym, right? But every time I go to the gym, right? Every time I go to the gym, I always feel better after I leave the gym than when I got there, right? And it's, if I didn't go to the gym because I didn't feel like it, I wouldn't feel good at the end of it, right? So sometimes the things that you don't feel like doing are almost always the thing that you should do, right? A quote that I love is motion creates emotion, right? So if you're laying on your couch, how are you going to feel? Shitty, right? Tired, right? Like maybe hungry. Doritos, good, right? Doritos, good on couch, right? But if you're going for a walk, or if you're at the gym, or if you're on a Zoom and like you're outside or whatever, that's going to create the emotion that is going to make you successful, right? So I would say that the most successful people, they determine how they want to feel. Then they figure that out and they break it down to what they need to do. And then they make that decision, and then they do those steps to get there, right? So this is actually something, I'm not going to use anyone's name, but I had a conversation with a rep on the team this week, right? And it was one of the most dramatic conversations I've had with a human being in a while, right? I texted them on Thursday to see if they want to set up a PC for Saturday, right? And their response was, I don't know if I'm going to make it till Saturday, right? And like, I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And so we scheduled a PC, and they were frustrated because they had a tough phone jam on Wednesday, and they felt like they didn't have people to call, right? And to me, this is emotional intelligence, is one, determining how you feel, right? And so I kind of said to them, I'm like, okay, cool. Like to me, I always say to people, you can vent for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to do something about it, right? Sometimes you just need a vent, right? You need to get stuff off your chest. And one thing that I would tell you as a piece of advice is only complain up, right? So never complain to your peers, only complain to people in a higher position than you, because that person's actually going to help you think the right way, right? So it's like, how do you feel? And then or how do I currently feel? But a question you should always ask yourself is, how do I want to feel? Right. And what I said to them is, I was like, they were like, I'm frustrated and I feel like a little helpless and stuff. Right. And what I said was, okay, cool. Well, if you, I didn't do it exactly like this, but what I said was, if you had 50 fresh leads, how would you feel? Right. And they said, like, much better. Right. I feel pretty good. Right. So my next question for you, so that is what they would need in order to feel better. Right. So they feel not so good. I'm assuming that they want to feel better. What do they need? Maybe 50 fresh leads. It might not be 50. It might be something else. Right. But once you determine that, it's how can I get there? Right. So I said, okay, cool. So what does 50 fresh leads look like? Right. If we could get you 10 demos, could you get 50 fresh leads from 10 demos? Would you guys say yes or yeah? Right. 50 fresh leads. So 10 demos. Right. And I said, okay, cool. Well, from your current, right, I think that they already had 2 demos. Right. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, from your, the people that you had spoken to that asked you to reschedule a demo, how many do we have? And it was like 20 or 30, right? And if we sent them a text that we're falling a little behind, asking if we could reschedule, could we get 3 more? Yeah, right? And if we were to do the sticky note approach and go around the neighborhood and put some sticky notes up saying, hey, I just got a new job, or hey, I have a quick question, it's something I'm working on. Could you give me a call? It's Owen from down the street. Could we get 2 or 3 from that? Yeah, probably, right? And from the other people that we have, could we get 2 or 3? And if we send some texts and leave some voicemails, call some customers back, right? And so, okay, cool. So we have 10 demos, right? Which is going to get us 50 fresh leads, which is going to make us feel good, right? And I asked them, I said, I actually forget this person's response, but I said this to a couple other people. And I said, okay, cool. So if I told you that you would magically have $1 million deposited in your bank account the moment you booked your 10th legitimate demo, right? No bribing or any of that stuff. You just have to book 10 real demos. Find a way to book 10 demos. I put $1 million in your bank account, right? Everyone here, you could spacebar. How long would it take you to book those 10 demos?
Not long.
Right? Some of you, it might be 2 hours. Some of you, it might be 6. Some of you, it might be a day, right? But if you think about it, if you could find a way to do it, you're what, 12 hours away from where you want to be and how you want to feel? Why are you focused on how you're feeling and not focused on how you want to feel? Right? And I think that that's like one of the most powerful concepts that everyone could think about is, how can I take control of my feelings? How can I take control of my results? What are the things that I could do to make things happen? Right? So a question that I would say is a microcosm of every decision that we make on a day-to-day basis is, what matters more, how I currently feel or how I want to feel? Right? What matters more, how I currently feel or how I want to feel? Right? What is more valuable to me, short-term happiness or long-term pleasure, or short-term pleasure or long-term happiness? Right? Because that's like really what a lot of the times we're weighing things by, right? It's like, I don't want to go to the gym. I want to lay on the couch. Short-term pleasure versus I'm going to go to the gym anyway because I made that commitment and I'm working on creating a healthier lifestyle. That's long-term happiness, right? And then another great question is, am I focused on my obstacles or am I focused on my opportunities? Right? Because the things that we focus on in life tend to expand, right? And when we're looking for something, it's funny how very often we end up finding it, right? It's like, I don't know if any of you are like me, but you get a new car and all of a sudden you feel like everyone has the same car and you're like, what the fuck? Like, how did this happen, right? Or you get a new pair of shoes or whatever, and all of a sudden you find it everywhere. And the reality is it was always there, but all of a sudden you're conscious and thinking about it, right? It's something you're focused on. And when you focus on negatives, you find more negatives, right? And when you focus on positives, you find positives and you find a way to make things happen, right? So I would say that that is one of the things that to me is super important for success, personally and professionally. So I want to teach a couple quick concepts, and I might need to cut them a little bit short because Earl's going to be on in 20 minutes. But you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to teach the other one first, and then I'm going to teach mental thermostat if there's enough time for that. So nice versus kind is a talk that I wrote a couple of years ago. It's a leadership talk, but I think that a lot of people don't take into account that leadership isn't only important for influencing others. The most important person that you lead is yourself, right? And I think that our self-conversations and the questions that we're asking ourselves very often determine the quality of our lives, right? So I'm gonna go through a couple things that will add value. This is a concept that I love, and it's the concept of being nice versus being kind, right? So a few years ago, I actually saw an article that I loved, and it was titled, "Your meanest friend is actually the friend who cares the most," right? I thought that quote was amazing, right? Because some of you probably think I'm mean. So one of the quotes in it was, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell people what they want to hear, right? And that's actually something that when I heard that, I started saying that in training. Your best friend isn't always the person that you have the most fun with. It's the person that helps you become the best version of yourself, right? Because that really ultimately should be our goal in life. Our goal in life should be to actively working towards becoming the best version of ourselves. And also understanding that we will never get there, but it's not about actually getting to the destination. It's about that journey and that process of becoming better, right? There's a video that Trent Booth, who's he's actually the person who taught the decision train. He talks about a few years ago, he made a video about using the example of someone with spinach in their teeth, right? And so the nice person might be like, oh, I'm too nice. I don't want to say something. I don't want to embarrass them. But the kind person would be the one that would let them know so that that person improves their situation, right? And to me, being kind is way more important than being nice, right? So my first summer as a manager, I would say that I tried to be nice, right? I was afraid to lose people. I kept a lot of people who were there, but they weren't really getting that much out of the summer, right? That second summer, I was way tougher, especially during SC2, which is the contest period that starts in 2 weeks. And the funny thing is, at first I was afraid to raise standards, but I actually did a poll at the end of that summer. One of the questions that I asked was, and I've been doing this ever since, but what was your favorite part of the summer? And every single person put the SC2 push. Every single person that actually pushed for the SC2 push put the SC2 push. And what I learned was that people thrive when they have accountability. People need to be pushed, and people build stronger relationships with those that they know are helping them grow and providing them value, right? Like when you know that somebody has your best interest at heart and they're actively working towards helping you out and not necessarily going the easy route and saying all the things that you want to hear, right? That makes you feel better about your relationship, right? And as a manager, I firmly believe that I'm measured by the value that I offer those who I work with, right? So the results that reps in our office and in our division get is very personal to me, right? When someone isn't seeing the success that they deserve, I feel like I'm failing them. And I would say, I'm gonna give you 2 big tips on coaching people and helping them be a better version of themselves, and then some quicker, smaller ones. So the first one is my biggest piece of advice for you, and this is something that took some time for me to fully grasp, is in every relationship that you have, you should do your best to set expectations, right? And I would say it's setting expectations so that other people are on the same page as you, right? And making sure that they have the same expectations as you is really important. And so is being consistent with your communication, right? So for expectations, right? If people don't know what you expect of them, it's unfair to be upset with someone who didn't meet the standards that you feel like they should have, right? And that's something that as a new manager, I wasn't very good at. I didn't have very clearly defined expectations, but I just assumed that people knew what I expected of them. And I got frustrated for reasons that I shouldn't have, right? If you don't know what others expect of you, it's impossible for you to support them in the ways that they deserve, right? So sometimes I also think that you should say to yourself is, hey, like what, go out and ask people in your life, hey, what could I do better to support you? Right. Or what, like what are things that I could do that would make your life better? Right. And also communicating with them so that you're both on the same page. Right. And then I would also say being consistent is one of the most important things. Right. So you can't pick and choose when you feel like having a tough conversation, or if you do that, you're going to come across as mean and your words aren't going to carry weight, right? You need to be forthright with the value that you offer, and you need to be constantly and consistently just communicating things with people in a timely manner, right? So you need to handle what needs to be handled in the moment. Otherwise, if you do it days later or months later or whatever, it's going to feel like you were holding things against them, right? And or attacking them, right? It will hurt your relationship subconsciously. So this is something that I did a lot my first year as a manager. Is there were times where, or maybe not like my first year and a half, where I had assistant managers that I would get like really frustrated with because I didn't address situations, right? Have you ever had a friend who might have done something that pissed you off and you don't handle it? You don't like say something, and then you are subconsciously really frustrated with that person and it impacts your relationship, right? It's so important to do it the moment it happens so that it doesn't do that. Or what happens is you get to a certain point, and if you haven't addressed it yet, what happens is then you address it and it becomes an arguing thing. When if you just said to them, hey, I really didn't like the fact that you did this, whatever, blah, 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 you could have just had a constructive conversation in the first place, right? I would also say by not addressing the situation, it makes that person feel like the behavior isn't a big deal and allows them to create habits that are going to hurt them in the long run, right? It negatively impacts that person. And then if you eventually address it, like I said, it's going to make them feel attacked. And when you do bring it up, because they won't be expecting it. So other tips I have is this one to me is powerful. When I heard this, it's the moment that you're afraid to be honest with someone because you're afraid to lose them is the moment that you've already lost that person. Right? So I'll say that again. The moment that you're afraid to be honest with someone because you're afraid to lose them is the moment that you've already lost that person. Right? So there were times where I had like high level reps or people that had tons of potential that I was afraid to hold accountable because I was like, what if they quit? But what I realized is they've already quit. Like it's going to happen, right? If I can't coach them and I can't impact them, I've already lost that person, right? So I can't be afraid to lose somebody by doing what's best for them and sharing things that are going to add value, right? So I would say in terms of coaching people, the thing that is going to work the best is helping them by using their goals and their best interest in guiding their actions, right? Like helping them come up with goals so that you can help them work towards those and make sure that, you're using that as the motivating factor, right? This is something that's big for me that I still, sometimes I'm not great at, but it's recognizing people in public and reprimanding people in private, right? So like, that's something I every once in a while, I mess up on that. But like, I used to just I would go in on people, right? I would go for their throats. So I would also say something that is really powerful when coaching and helping people is asking for their permission, right? So it's like, hey, if I saw something that you could be better at or that you could be doing better, would you want to know? Right? Do you mind if I'm real with you for a second? Can I share some things that I've seen when, from you or whatever, right? Do you mind if I give you some advice, right? Like asking their permission before you offer advice. So another thing that's really valuable is not criticizing someone's character, but focusing on their actions, right? Because realistically, like great people every once in a while do silly things. You're not like, when you're coaching somebody, you're not saying like, oh, you're a bad person. You're saying, hey, a few of the things that, you could be doing better that would make me feel better, that would make you more successful, are making sure that you're on time or, that you're a little more prepared or whatever. Right. So one of the things that I feel like maybe came along a little more naturally to me was learning how to gauge the way to best impact someone. Right. So if you are an assistant manager, you might have heard me say this. Actually, I think I said it to Lily yesterday. So in terms of coaching people, there's certain people that off the bat, you need to kind of like push, right? There's certain people that you kind of need to pull, right? So there's like those different like methods of, there's certain people that need to be challenged, right? So Earl just hopped on it. One of the things that Earl knows about me is I need to be challenged, right? I like being challenged. I like it when someone says, I don't think you could do this, or hey, like blah, 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 it challenges me. There's certain people that just need that, like a lot of positive reinforcement, that pulling, right? And then there's certain people that you kind of need to walk alongside until they're ready for you to push or pull them, right? That aren't going to be bought into your coaching until you help them get some results and you build a relationship with that person, right? Another thing that's powerful is being vocal about sharing positives and things that you like about people, right? So this definitely wasn't always like very natural for me at first, but it's been a very big focus of me, right? So what are people doing well? What are you excited to see from them in the future? What do you appreciate about people, right? Like those are things that make people feel really good. And a lot of the times, if you really like recognize someone for their positives, they're going to continue to, do those positives, and they're going to know that those are important. And then in terms of this part, the last thing is taking criticism yourself and just actively pursuing ways that you can improve, right? Ask for feedback from the people around you. What is it? It's always be learning, right? Always be working towards becoming a better version of yourself, right? And holding yourself to the same standards that you hold others, so that you're not saying one thing and doing another, right? So I am going to very quickly go through this, and then I'm going to introduce Earl. So this is a mental thermostat is a concept that I love. And I went to a conference in Philadelphia a few years ago. I went with Zach Becker, a few other people, and we paid, I forget what we paid. It was like a personal development conference. And this is a concept that I love. And for any of you that everyone probably knows what a thermostat is, right? It's where you set a temperature, right? You pick a number that feels comfortable for you. And what happens is when you set that number, if it goes under the number, it turns on. And when it goes over that number, it turns off, right? So let's say you felt comfortable at 70 degrees. If it went under 70 degrees, it kicks in and gets up to 70 degrees. Once it goes over 70, it turns off. It's basically that level of comfort, right? In any of the facets of your life, right? It could be happiness in your personal relationships. It could be finances. It could be health. It could be whatever, right? So let's say you're comfortable with the 70 degrees. Under 70, it turns it on. Over 70, it turns it off. And basically the concept was, and I think that this is awesome. It was a huge realization for me, was that you have a comfort level in every area of your life based on how you grow up, your past relationships, your level of success, the conditions around us. We have that level that we're comfortable, and subconsciously we do everything in our power to stay at that spot, right? So if we fall below, we'll do anything to catch up, right? So for example, someone who might be comfortable making $60,000 in a year, what happens sometimes is they might go above that number, right? They might have a couple great, a great quarter, or a great month or whatever. And a lot of the times that person self-sabotages subconsciously, right? Because they're not comfortable. The person who's comfortable making $60,000 a year isn't comfortable at $100,000 all of a sudden like that, right? So let's say it's work, right? There's that mentality of all of a sudden that person feels like they're better than what they're doing. It's that grass is always greener, right? And I really think that a lot of the times we're very good at looking for negatives, but a lot of the times we don't really focus on the positives and the things that we have in our yard. But we start little disputes at work, right? We get in fights with people that we work with, right? And we stop looking for ways to continue to grow and develop our business. We get stagnant. Or in relationships, we second guess the people around us and start letting little things get in our way. In happiness, right? We do little things that aren't good decisions that are going to create less happiness. And one of the stats that is like staggering is it's almost 75%, or actually I think it might be over 80% of people that win the lottery go bankrupt in less than like 5 years, right? And the reason for that is because they're not comfortable with the money right? They're not comfortable being in a situation that the situations that come from that are higher quality problems, right? So a lot of the times what those people do is they go out and they make decisions that subconsciously that bring them back to the point that they were at where they felt comfortable, right? So the way that you grow your mental thermostat is you grow yourself, right? You read, you get a mentor, you plan, you listen to audios, you self-assess, right? A couple more stats for you are according to a 2009 Sports Illustrated article, 70% of NFL players are either bankrupt or under financial stress within 2 years of retirement. An estimated 60% of NBA players go bankrupt within 3 years of their leaving the sport. And the reason for that is because most of these people it came from situations where they might have been in poverty, right? They might not have ever been in a great place financially. And all of a sudden they have to deal with higher problems, right? What happens is they don't create a millionaire mindset. They might be a millionaire on paper, but they don't have a millionaire mindset. So they work themselves back, right? They don't grow personally or have financial literacy as their income grows. So they're incapable of handling that amount of money and the problems that come with it. So it's also why so many times in life, when we're doing well, sometimes we feel like something's about to come and derail us. A lot of the times that's something that is self-inflicted, right? The reality is problems aren't a bad thing, right? So a quote that I love is stop wishing you didn't have problems. Problems are not a bad thing. They're a sign of life, right? If you're alive, you have problems, right? So instead of wishing you didn't have problems, wish for higher quality problems, right? So a problem is I can't pay my rent, and that's not a good problem to have. A better problem is I can't afford to buy a third home, right? That's a good problem, a much better problem to have than I can't afford my rent, right? So look for higher quality problems, right? Look for ways to grow yourself to the point where you're capable of handling high level problems and thinking ahead enough to be able to make things that are coming up smaller and limit their effect on you. By growing yourself, you will not only be consciously creating like solutions to your problems, but you'll be way more comfortable when they arise. Another quote, and then I'm going to wrap up in a second, is the people on this planet that are the most successful are those who have the largest comfort zones. And the only way to grow your comfort zone is by stepping outside of it, right? So the reason that this is valuable to you, it's one is you have the ability to be cognitive of it, and be able to ask questions, and obviously like be in more control of your thought process, right? It gives you the ability to have the right mindset and to focus on growth in different areas of your life, right? If you feel like you keep getting derailed in a certain area of your life, you need to focus more on growing in that area. And it allows you to better understand how your mind works. So that's actually kind of crazy. So Earl, are you ready, or do you want a minute, or?
Ready to go.
All right, cool. So I'm going to introduce Earl. Earl, Charisma's already doing jazz hands. Earl is my mentor. He is Northeast region manager. I would say I gave a quote by Isabella on our team earlier. Isabella said that simultaneously you fire her up, but make her feel so calm at the same time. And I would say Earl is definitely one of the reasons I'm with Vector, that I've thought long-term with the business. He's just a really good guy. And he has so much good advice. He's just a really good father, a really good husband, a really good person. He's someone that I could trust. And I love the lessons that I've learned from him and the leadership, that he's provided for all of us. So I'm going to let Earl, do you want to screen share, or do you want me to?
I will screen share eventually, not off the bat, but yeah, stop sharing your screen so everybody maybe pin me.
I'm going to pin you.
Or spotlight, whatever.
Really? Okay. Then yeah, I need to spotlight you.
All right, cool. All right, everybody. Well, hello. Give me a jazz hands if you can, good to see everybody. I'm glad Owen invited me to join you guys today. He probably shared with you in years past, we would have an event like this in person. So I'm bummed that I can't actually shake your hand or give you a high five for what you've done so far this summer. But I'm still excited to talk to you about your opportunities and the great stuff that you guys have been doing together so far as a team. So some of you have heard from me before. So I asked Owen about the group. Some of you have not. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes and share with you my story. For those you heard from me before when I was invited to an SLDM meeting, or if any of you were on the Taste of Leadership Academy last week, you'll have heard different parts of the story. So I'll apologize in advance if you heard it before, but I want to make sure everybody else who doesn't know me kind of gets to know me a little bit before I start sharing about some of the leadership opportunities that you have available. So again, my background, I started with the company when I was a sophomore in college. I was a finance and political science major at the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School of Business. And I was looking for experience. That was the main driver of why I wanted to work at Vector. Now, I was attracted by the income, but it really was the experience. Before working here, I had the typical kinds of student jobs. I had some manual labor jobs because they paid well. Like I worked on a farm one summer. I renovated apartments one summer. I also had some food industry jobs. The job that I was working right before I started with Vector was a deli. It was a bakery deli. It was a job I had had since high school. I knew the owners, and it was a job I could always go back to. So, it wasn't a great job, but, it was a job where I had flexibility with my schedule. And, I was hoping to find something different. So my sophomore year at school, when I got to the spring semester, I remember going out with my sister to buy a suit. I needed her help because I didn't know how to pick out a suit. And I was interviewing downtown in Philadelphia to try and get some type of financial internship or position of some sort so that I could build my resume to get a better internship the following summer. And I knew there's nothing wrong with working at a deli, but I didn't want to graduate with deli and farm on my resume. And so that's kind of my story. Now, I struck out. I didn't get a job in Philadelphia. I went to 4 different places. I used my network, struck out. I went to the guidance office at Wharton. They were like, yeah, come back your junior year. That's when we help you find an internship. And so I remember going home after finals, being like, well, I guess I'm working at the deli. I hope something else comes up. And I got a letter in the mail. So I don't know how many of you got a letter. I know some of you heard about it from a friend, but that's how I heard about the position. And I actually remember calling. I was on lunch break when I called to set up my interview. We didn't text back then because texting didn't exist 30 years ago when I started. So I actually had to physically call to set up my interview. And when I got the position, I was real excited. I was nervous because I had never sold anything before. But for those of you again who heard my story, one of the blessings that happened to me my first weekend, I found out on my very first day, my best friend's parents owned the product for over 10 years. And so that was something that made me feel very confident and comfortable. Like to see a customer's reaction who owned it for 10 years and to see how much they liked it and they bought more. And I knew it had nothing to do with me because they already owned Cutco. Like that was powerful for me, And then the day after that, on my second day of practice, I found out my aunt had it for 15 years. And what's funny, I'm sure some of you had this experience. I never even heard of Cutco. And my best friend's parents, who I'd probably been to their house like 1 billion times, owned it for over 10 years. But the reason I didn't know it is because I never looked at their knives before. I don't pay attention to people's knives, right? So that was kind of like those two things really gave me a lot of confidence going into, my start with them. I actually was working still part-time at the deli when I started my fast start because someone told me it wasn't going to work out. And at the end of my fast start, I quit the deli. And that was because being good with math, I started to realize every time I went to work at the deli, I would actually make less money. I would lose money if I had versus just doing a demo, And so I'm like, there's no way that I want to, try and straddle both. I want to go after a scholarship. I want to go after, and I'm so glad that I did. I ended up selling $30,000 that summer. I won a scholarship. That definitely would not have happened if I continued working part-time in the deli. I might have sold 15 to 20, but I wouldn't have sold 30 for sure, And I'm sure there's a lot of things that you love about the position so far. Again, even if you've started for a week, there's probably things that you're already enjoying. But I just wanted to share some of the things that I loved, because I think it gives you a picture of how you'll feel at the end of the summer. Here's what I'll tell you about the position. You probably have already learned this, is that it's not easy, but everybody can do it. Here's what I mean by that. It's probably harder than any other job I had had up to that point, because it was the first job that required me to actually work on my skills. When I went to work on a farm, there was no skills. It was like, weed this, put a hole in the ground, pull this, right? When I was working at the deli, I mean, there's a certain set of skills to make a sandwich, but really not much. You probably learn it in 15 minutes, And so this was the first job where I had to work at the job. And so that's made it hard. And then sales, even when you're good, not everybody's going to buy, right? Like our closing ratio as a company is between 60 to 70%. That means even our good reps have 2 or 3 out of 10 people don't buy, right? And so, you'll have good days and bad days. And that's something so the job was harder than any other job I had before. All right. But here's what I loved about it. Number one, I loved the way they paid. I love the fact that if I worked hard and if I got better, I could make more money. I'm a hard worker. That I am a hard worker. My parents raised me that way. And I love the fact that my skills could help me make more money. By the way, that's how professional jobs work. All right. So I know for most of you, this is your first professional job. When you graduate, if you're going to college or if you start your own business, any type of professional job, you get paid based on what you're worth. So the better you get, the more money you make. And I think that's important to recognize, to learn how to think that way. I also like the skills I was learning, learning how to present myself professionally, learning how to connect with people. And if you've only started for 2 or 3 weeks so far, you're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. Your first 2 or 3 weeks, you're kind of learning how to share your goals and present yourself. When you start doing 50 to 100 demos and not 20 to 30, when you start getting closer to like 50, 60, 70, and you start getting into leads that you don't know, and man, it really helps you grow as a person. I remember going back to school, being able to relate with my professors from a completely different level, not being afraid of them, being able to connect with them, build rapport with them. It helped when I was interviewing, when I graduated college. The time management skills helped me at school. If you are a recent high school graduate, you ask any of the college students that are on this, what's one of the biggest challenges students deal with their first and second year of college? It's time management, because the schedule's so different from what you go through in high school, right? And that's great, because learning how to manage my schedule here helped me at school. By the way, I can't say I was actually really good at managing my schedule when I was first getting going. I often talk to new reps. I ran an office for 12 years, so I know what it's like to manage reps. And a lot of times new reps are like, man, I just wish you would tell me when to work. And I would always say to them, hey, I know you want me to make it easy, but as soon as you get the scheduling thing down, you learn how to schedule time off, you learn how to schedule your phone time. The job is so much more fun. All right. So just you're going to get better. Just stick with it. Right. And then I loved being able to do that. I took those activity schedules that the company gave me and brought them back to school. I love the attitudes of the people who worked here. I love the recognition. There was so much that I took away from the position. I love the competitions that we had. I thought that was awesome. I was an athlete in high school and I went to a Division I college, so I wasn't good enough to play in college. And, I didn't realize how much I missed competition until I started selling Cutco. And I was like, they had a trophy competition. I was like, well, this is kind of weird. And then I started to get into it. And then when I realized that, like, one of my buddies at the office was beating me, I got all, and it helped us make more money. So there was a lot of cool things that I loved. As I went through that summer, I was invited into key staff, which they explained to me is kind of like being a team captain. And I was asked to give a couple talks at meetings and help out some of the new reps because I was doing well. And it wasn't like I was an instant success, by the way. For those of you who heard me talk before, one of the things I always say to new people is there's probably things that you're good at and there's things you need to get better at. So what I was good at was I was really good at leads, and I think I had a really good demo. What I wasn't good at was dropping down on the phone. Those are the two things I had to get better at. Now, if I were to be a rep today, I'd be great at the phone and dropping down because I fixed what I was doing wrong. And I needed help. I had someone help me. But once I realized that I was too nervous and I wasn't giving confidence to customers in the drop down, man, I think some of you heard me talk before. I increased my average order by $100 in 1 week by just getting better and practicing the end of the presentation out loud. So they had me help new reps out with phone skills. Like, oh, Earl used to stink at the phone. Here, help him. And I'd be like, oh yeah, it was horrible. And that made the new person feel comfortable. So that's what I kind of did as a key staff member. And then they invited me into Leadership Academy. And so that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. And Owen and I didn't compare notes. There might be some things that I talk about that he's already commented on, but maybe I'll go into a little bit more depth. Or when they talked to me about the Leadership Academy, which again, shortly, essentially, this is the program that we offer to our students who have already been successful. And it teaches them skills that you don't learn in the rep position. So it's skills outside of what you're going to learn. So the time management, all that stuff, these are skills beyond that. It's things like coaching skills and how to interview people and how to train people and leadership. And we also have a financial section that we teach, right? And so when they talked to me about this, I was already really impressed with the current managers that I was meeting. I remember one of my assistants, his name was Tommy Vieira. He was a graduate student at Villanova. And I remember just being impressed with him and being like, man, if this guy's still here, there's something to this thing. And I remember getting questions like, why are you still here? He's like, oh, Earl, I mean, I'm telling you, the management opportunities that are here and what you learn. And he just went on and on. And he had sold $100,000 while he was in school. So he was like, I've already made $40,000 while I've been in college. And I'm like, damn, I started thinking about, man, I never even thought about making 40 grand while I was in school. You know, like that was like a new concept to me, right? You know? And then I met a guy named Steve Renner who was also in our office, and he was in his residency at medical school. He had run 2 branches for the company. And he's like, Earl, I'm telling you, there is nothing that's going to impact you more than being in management with this company. You learn so much. You learn how to be a leader. He's like, I am the best medical student in my class. And it's not because of my medicine, it's because of how I deal with people and patients. And I stand far, and he was just went on and on. And so I was impressed with these young individuals, and I wanted to become like them. And that was one of the reasons that I was intrigued about Leadership Academy. I also wanted to learn how to interview. I thought that'd be a great skill to learn. I thought learning how to coach. And so I went through the interview process. Typically, you'll be interviewed in August, you know, so you'll learn about Leadership Academy, and then we interview people either in late July or August. I was interviewed in August. And I remember them saying, we would like to be part of it. And I said, I got to be honest with you. I want to do it, but I'm a finance major, and next summer I'm probably going to get an internship through Wharton. So I don't think I'll be working with the company next summer as much as I've loved it. And the manager's response, I was expecting them to say, well, thanks for your time. His response was, Earl, there's no commitment to be in management to actually start the training with us. And I was like, all right, great, I'm in. You know, he's like, all I expect is you to work hard like you worked hard all summer and help out other people and be a leader. And I was like, great, I'll do it. I love it. I want to learn all this stuff, you know? And so that's kind of how I got involved in Leadership Academy. And then what happened is, so that was my junior fall semester. During that semester, I started working as an assistant manager and learning all the stuff that I told you about. And I started taking management courses. And I realized by the end of my junior fall semester that I should have been a management major, not a finance major. So I'm good with numbers. I'm really good with numbers. And I can completely have done well with finance. But people is where my passion was. And I just didn't realize it at the time when I picked a major. A lot of you might have had that experience. So many times you pick a major when you're a freshman or a sophomore, you're not even sure if that's really what you want to do. And what's great about college is you can graduate with one thing and do something else. But what you really want to do is use the time to learn about yourself and to discover your skills, you know? So at the end of the semester, my manager said, you're a branch candidate, meaning that you have an opportunity to be a branch manager with us next summer. You've proven yourself. And I was really interested. So I went to my guidance counselor at Wharton, and I sat down with her and I said, hey, I need your help making a decision. You know I can get an internship with Wharton this summer, but I have this opportunity. And I explained to her what branch was, that how I would manage my own team and interview and train them. And she was blown away. And if you tell most people in the professional world what our branch program is, that if you said, oh yeah, the company, they give them $3,000 to $6,000, and we let a 19 or 20-year-old start an office and manage and coach a group of people, they'd be like, That's insane. That'll never work, you know? And by the way, here's a quick story. I didn't have this in my notes, but if you want to know how the branch program started, it actually started in New Jersey, all right? Al DiLeonardo, the CEO, was the one who started it. And there was a teacher who was working with us in the summers to make money. And the teacher said, hey, can I open up an office for the summer? And, you know, I teach students, so I'm sure I can manage them. And and rather than sell, I'll manage a group of students. And so they let the teacher do it. And then some of her students the next fall said, hey, well, if she could do it, why not let us do it? And the company said, okay. And 3 of her students then ran an office the next summer. And 2 of the 3 did better than the teacher. So the company said, hold on here. Maybe we should do something with the students for a second. And that's kind of how the whole branch program started, you know? So I'm going to move now into branch, all right? But I wanted to pause there for a second because I want to say something. I want you to realize that most of you probably don't know what you want to do next summer, and that's completely fine. So a lot of you know that my daughter started selling Cutco last summer. She graduated from high school. She sold $46,000 last summer. She had a great experience. She loved it. She was invited into Leadership Academy, and she said the same thing. She's a performance major. She's a great singer. She wants to work on Broadway. She goes, I love to go through Leadership Academy, but I really don't know if I'll be back next summer because I might get some type of internship and I'm, you know, performing somewhere. So I can't make any commitments. And they said the same thing, which is, you know, you can do whatever you want, you know, to go through Leadership Academy. So she started it. She loved it. And even if she never became a branch, she is running a branch this summer. I think about this. Isn't this ironic? If she would have had an internship in theater on Broadway, it's closed. She wouldn't be doing anything right now. So I'm really glad that she left her options open because she wouldn't have had a job if she didn't do that. Isn't that crazy? So anyway, even if she never became a branch, I know that all the skills that she took away would have been totally worth it. But same thing happened to her. About halfway through, she said, you know what? I'm going to do it. It's only my sophomore year. I'm going to run a branch. And then I'll go work on Broadway, you know, or I'll get an internship in some type of theater role, you know? And so, I want to make it a point to you that it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. I would just keep your options open because you're not sure where next year's going to go, you know? And Leadership Academy will build you and build your resume, even if you never go into management with us, even if you never worked a second summer with us. It's a great opportunity. And you can ask people who've been through it and they'll tell you. So let me go on to branch. So what's branch? You know, the best way I explain it is you sell one summer and you teach the next, you know? So branch is a summer position. It's a summer job. All right. We give it to a student, a recent graduate, or someone who's not in school. In our region, there's 55 branches this summer. There's over 300 across the nation. We have 300 to 400 people do it every single year. All right. So if you were selected and you chose to do it, it's not like this is a brand new idea we just came up with. We've been doing this for 29 years and we have 300 people a year do it. All right. And it's a chance for you to build on the success that you had as a rep and learn a new level of skills, but different skills, you know? And here's what you'll see. So each week, our region has put out a branch spotlight. And you can ask your manager to see them. What a branch spotlight is, we interview one of our branches and we have them share their story. So you know, I think you have Sam as a guest speaker today, Owen. Sam has a spotlight. You can interview Sam. And what's great is she's very different than Sophia, who just came out this week. And Don Bergio was last week. So we're trying to give you, like, Noah Wolfson is from Long Island. He's a lot different than Sam. Like, he's like night and day from Sam, right? And that's okay, because all of our branches are different. They're different majors. Here's what I know that they like about it. Some people choose to do it, like me, because of the experience. They're really fired up about building their resume and learning things like recruiting and training and coaching, you know. And what's interesting is the skills that you learn help in any field. So our top branch manager for the summer is Lydia Frensos. She's a psychology major. So she's not trying to get business skills per se. She wants to develop her people skills to help her in her field. Anthony DeLisi was one of the branches that I just saw. I just got a LinkedIn message from him, and he just got appointed to a resident position at Mount Sinai Hospital in Long Island. He was not graduate yet. He was in college going on to medical school, and he wanted to run a branch to learn how to run a business, because he wants to own his own practice someday, right? So some people do it for the experience. Other people do it because it sounds fun. It's like, all right, I got to work over the summer. This sounds like a lot of fun, right? You have your own team. You get to make your own schedule. You make an impact on people. There's new ways to compete. There's contests, just like we have stuff for you guys as representatives. We have stuff for all of our branches. They can win trips. They can win prizes. They can win more than you, by the way, just because we kind of do pay and reward our branches a little bit better than our representatives. Now, not our career representatives, I should mind you, and then obviously some people also do it for the income. Now, I don't think you should be a branch for income, but I think it's important to know that we pay our people well, just like our representative position. We pay our people well, and the people who do better tend to make more money. So I kind of wanted to spend a couple minutes. Owen asked me to spend a couple minutes on some of the pay, and I thought I would do that. Give me a drink for a second. But before I do that, I want to make the comment again about, what our mission is as a company. So for those of you who are on my Taste of Leadership Academy call, I might have shared this last week. Our mission as a company isn't about selling knives. So there's two different companies. There's Cutco and there's Vector. Cutco is the manufacturer and Vector is the marketer. All right. We are owned by Cutco, but Cutco has a separate CEO, a separate mission statement, a separate identity. And we have a corny phrase. It is very corny. Those of you heard me say it last week. We change lives through knives. Our mission is to create a group of leaders who can change the societies they live in. That's our mission. Now we want to impact people, and we do it through knives. And I'm glad we have Cutco, because I don't think we could start students without experience and not give them a great product like Cutco that help them when they first get started, like with the name and the brand reputation and stuff like that. All right. So that's our mission. But we know that to get really qualified people, we have to pay people well. So the reason our incentives are so good is because we want to keep our high quality people, because we know that if we build their resume, that they're going to be able to get other jobs. And so, when you start looking at the higher percentages, even in the sales field, how do we keep high quality? Well, we pay them really well, and we try and give a lot of extra perks. So we do the same thing at the branch level, because we know anybody who goes through our leadership academy can probably get multiple types of internships in a normal world. Let me just say, and I will pause there for a second. Oh, and how much more time do I have? Just so I know.
Up to 10 minutes if Sam doesn't mind starting 5 minutes late. I didn't think she.
Okay. So I just want to make a quick comment about the company that you work for. A lot of you are working with us because you might have had an internship or a job and it was destroyed. All right. When the pandemic hit. So I want you to think about this, especially internships. Financial companies, all kinds of companies canceled all of their internships. So we had 300 people that we committed to that were going to run a summer office for us. All right. They were called branches, over 300 of them. My daughter was one of them. And when the pandemic hit, the company didn't even pause. Now, I'm part of the executive team. We give each of them $3,000 to $6,000 when they open. So this is a multi-million-dollar decision that we're making. And I'm not even talking about the career people. I'm talking about the college students who had trained for a year. And we said, we are going to honor our commitment for you to run an office no matter what. And so, like, when I say that, I'm proud of who I work for, I'm proud of the fact that the company said we could lose money on this and we don't care. It's the right thing to do. Now, lucky we're a private company and we're cash strong, so we can make decisions like that. Like, we don't have to stress about losing $5 million. All right. I know we're not a Fortune 500 company. We're not that big, but we're cash strong and we're privately held. So we're not put under pressure. But I think it's great to know that that's what the company does when they try and back their people. All right. So talking about the money. All right. So if you're jotting things down, the company gives $3,000 to $6,000 when they open an office. Okay. Now, why is it 3 to 6? Well, the way our branches used to work is they used to rent an office space. I don't think any of our branches has office spaces this summer. So the extra $3,000 was for the office space. So we just gave, so if they didn't have an office, we gave them $3,000. If they did have an office, we gave them $6,000. All right. There's a couple of our branches that had already rented spaces. So we give them 3,000 to 6,000. Now, what does it pay for? Well, there's things that we do advertising wise. All right. You know, when you were texted for your interview, there's a texting organization that we manage and pay for. And to pay those people, we have to charge the managers. So, but that comes out of their startup. So we give them $3,000 and then we help pay the texting service. So they don't have to hire people to set up interviews. They don't have to do their own advertising per se. There's a lot of little things like that, okay, that we take care of. Then we give them an additional $2,000 to pay for direct mail letters. All right, so we just take care of that that's the letters that I talked about that I got. All right, and if you got a letter, your college hands out addresses, either your college or you filled out a form at some point, and they're collected by mailing companies. We just hire a mailing company, and that's how we got people's addresses. All right, and then the manager makes an override off, just like you make an override off your sales. A manager does as well, and typical branches and new districts make usually between 15 and 20% on most of their sales. Now, why do I say usually? Because the way it works is they start at 25, and as people get promotions, they make a little bit less. But most of their team is new. So if I were to average out the summer, it's between 15 and 20%, somewhere around 16 to 17%. All right. So if you see a branch, all right, have a $10,000 a week, usually that means that they made about $1,500 to $2,000 in income from that. And there might be some expenses after that. All right. And if you see a branch whose office sells $60,000 for the summer, you could take 15 to 20% of that, and that would have been their income. Now I'm going to show you an actual profit and loss in a minute, but I'm just trying to give you numbers to wrap your mind around what does a branch make, you know? So by the way, I said to you, my daughter's a branch. So for this talk, I have access to her bank account. So I literally went through and I added up her paychecks so far, and I added up how much money she's withheld. You know how Owen was just giving a financial talk? We teach everybody to withhold money so they don't spend it all. Her branch has sold $80,000 so far, and she's been paid over $12,000. And that's after expenses. That's how much she's been paid that's in her bank account, or, you know, so if you could do the math there, 20% of that would be 16,000. So she had some expenses. Now, what's an expense, right? You know that fast start contest you got? Managers help pay for that. The company pays for 90% of the fast start prizes, and the manager kicks in 10%. So if you won $1,000, the company paid 900 and the manager paid 100. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's one of the expenses that they have as a branch manager. All right. And then the second part of their pay, so that's their office pay, is they sell it straight 50% for July, August, and September. So even if they're only at 40%, they get paid straight 50% for July, August, and September. So if you watch the branch spotlight video that has Dom Bergio in it, Dom says in his video that when he was he's running a branch this summer. His first branch when he was in college, he sold $26,000 during the SC2 push. He made $13,000 in 3 weeks because they paid him straight 50%. That's what we pay our branches. And we go into September because many of them sell when they go back to school, even though it might only be one or 2 days a week. All right. So that's our branch pay program. So now there's a couple extra perks. All right. Such as there's a company trip they get to compete for. They can win a trip to Cabo like you. They just have a different contest. They can also win. We we have a contest where they can win Allbirds shoes or Ray-Ban glasses and stuff like that. But they're just the extra stuff. So I'm going to share with you my screen so I can show you. So I gave this to Owen, so you don't have to take notes on this. Owen, I think I gave you the updated one. I updated what it would look like this summer. When I show you actual P&Ls from last summer, it's going to include things like office rent. Well, our branches, again, 90% of them don't have offices, so this is zero. Utilities is zero. Okay. Their internet might be $100. It depends if they're using their parents' internet. Vector Live is like the system we use to track recruits. Web PDI is one of the things that many managers use. It's $59 a month. This is a financial service to help them keep their books. Web ads are advertising that we put on things like Craigslist. Photocopies, this would actually be zero. I should have made that zero. They haven't made any photocopies because everybody's online. Literature's now 0. Okay. Receptionist, for some, it depends. It's $175 a week is around what a branch might pay. Now, a district might pay more. A national trip charge, just so you know, if they win the trip, they can win it for anywhere from 50% all the way up to free. So I put charges in there, assuming they only win at 50%. So this is an example. Now, there's fast start prizes. There's base pay. When someone gets base pay, the company pays 75% of that. And then there's 25% paid by the manager. A show kit is if they wanted to buy a kit for themselves that they could use and be part of the events team after being a branch. So, but Owen will give this to you. It shows you a model, and the model basically says a branch who sells $60,000 for the summer and sells 15 grand in July and August will profit around $13,000. Just so you know, $60,000 will be below our average this summer. So I'm giving you a below average branch. That would be what their income would be for the summer. And that's only if they sell 15,000. So if they sell $26,000 during the SC2 push like Don Bergio, that blows up these numbers. So again, Owen can give this. I just wanted to show it to you. All right. Now, the second thing I'll show you is actual profit and losses. So this was Paige last summer. As I told you, if someone does better, they make more money. Lydia is a branch this summer. She's our #1 branch this summer. Last summer was her first branch. She did $140,000 for the summer. Her income as a branch last summer was $39,000. Now, if you just do the math, I told you at 60, someone would make around 13. She did 140. So that's more than double. All right. So her expenses were different. Now, it included office expenses. Everett is a district manager in Long Island. His branch did 205. Long Island is more expensive than Carroll County, Maryland. So his expenses were higher than Lydia's. He made $34,000. And Paige was our #1 branch. I know you all know Paige. She's a district manager now in Somerset. This was her income from last summer. So I don't think someone should look at Paige's income and say, I can make $60,000 as a branch. I'm going to do that. Paige was the #2 branch in the nation. We have 55 branches. It's not like the average person is going to be #2. That's why I showed you 60,000. I just want you to realize that we pay people, just like the rep position, based upon how well they do. So if someone does really well, we're going to keep paying them. We don't stop it. Now, the second thing on that handout that Owen can give you is what it looks like if they were a career manager with us. So, and so for wrapping up, what I wanted to share with you is I wanted to share with you what the opportunities are. Our philosophy is a little bit different at Vector. We don't wait for people to do extremely well and then tell them about opportunities. We tell people about our opportunities as they're coming up in the business. And the way the program works is there's a Leadership Academy interview that you would go through for July or August. The Leadership Academy training starts in late August. All right. It's basically a combination of a virtual calls, and we have a couple events. All right. We don't ask for any commitment. We just ask people to be committed to the process in terms of learning. And if we give an assignment, it's kind of like taking a half credit class or like having an extracurricular activity, like being in the finance club, but it's a lot less time and a lot more powerful than being in the finance club. At the end of the fall semester, we look at our branch candidates, and usually by the end of their winter break is when we can decide who we think are the best branch candidates. And it's a combination of, we ask who's interested, there's a group assess, and these are the people who get it. So, and then we put together a program. They continue learning stuff. Anybody who wants to be an assistant manager with us can continue in Leadership Academy, and all the branches continue in the spring. And that's when we continue their training. And then they start to interview people virtually, usually in April, when they're wrapping up with school and stuff like that. And again, when I say interview, it's not like they're working every day. They can like run 3 interviews a week or something like that. So they then open an office, all right, which again, as you can say, this year we've opened all virtual office. You might be like, well, what are you doing next year? Well, we're probably going to have some branches open virtually. We'll probably have some branches who say, I want to actually have an office. They still might interview and train people virtually, but they might work from an office, or they might work in their district office, right? And they recruit and train people for 8 to 10 weeks, and they sell the rest of the summer. what I would tell you at this point is if you want to learn more, watch the branch spotlight videos, okay? Because that'll help you learn why different people do it. Keep getting invited to events like this, and feel free to ask Owen questions and your manager questions as well. So, but I would like to say just the fact that you were invited to attend this event says that your manager believes you have the power to be a leader. So keep up the good work. Keep improving. You don't have, oh, here's something I should have said. You don't have to be the best rep to be a good manager. So I think that's important. It doesn't hurt to be the best rep, but you don't have to be. You can be a great manager even if you weren't the best rep. So be a good rep and keep growing. So, all right, Owen.
Awesome. Thank you, Earl. I appreciate you. So everyone could clap. All right. The next person I'm going to introduce is Sam. So Sam, I actually was texting with her the other day, and I told her I asked her if I could make fun of her a little while I introduced her, and she said, please do. So Sam started last summer in the Hunterdon branch office. So she's called a twig, right? Like she's a branch from a branch, but now the branch is a district. So I don't know what the definition of that is. Do you remember, Sam, what were you at in career sales when you transferred into Morris?
Like right under 20 grand.
Okay. I think more like 15, but we'll give her right under 20 grand.
Okay.
And so she worked there when her manager, Paige, went back to school. She worked out of Morris. She is a Seton Hall student. And I literally remember her and someone else transferred into that office. And I made the joke the other day that I thought Paige was trying to get me to quit. Sam came to the first phone jam and had no clue what a phone approach was, right? She's like, I have no one to call, but she had a referral notebook. And I'm like, what do you mean you have no one to call? And she's like, half of these people I just wrote in here so my customers thought people were giving me referrals. And she's like, and everyone else I called. And I was like, did you book demos? And she's like, no, but I called them once or twice. And I was like, we're going to call them again, right? Like, obviously she actually said, she's like, it's funny how karma works because like all my reps are like, I called them twice. It's funny because when she transferred in, Paige is like, I have this girl, Sam, who I love. She's going to go branch, all this stuff. And then Sam's like, I'm allowed to call people twice. And I was like, oh, right. And one of the things I would say about Sam is that she might need like a little accountability, but when she actually has that accountability and that structure, she became really good at phoning. Like she became really good. She started using an approach. She started learning it. She became way more consistent. Watching her growth has been awesome. And right now, out of every branch in the entire company, which many branches that compete nationally are people that branch for the second time. So like a lot of the times, the first time someone goes branch, it's more about like learning. And I mean, literally even still me as a manager, I've been open for 6 years. At the end of every summer, I'm like, if I knew then what I know now, like it would be totally different. So a lot of the times, first time branches, it's about figuring out. And then the second time they go branch, it's about competing. She started last summer. She sold one summer and now she's number 6 in the nation. So I really appreciate her taking the time to speak with us and share a little bit about her leadership opportunity or her leadership experience. So everyone could give it up. I don't know if we're doing jazz hands or clapping or whatever.
Oh, Lord, this is fun. Cool, thanks. I didn't know I was number 6. It was actually kind of exciting. Well, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I'm so excited that Owen asked me to speak to you guys about why I went branch and, why I wanted to advance, all things like that. It's literally my favorite thing to talk about. So before I dive in, I want to really explain like what Leadership Academy is a little bit. I am going to be talking a little bit about it. I refer to it as PLA2 in case you don't know what that means. So if you hear me say that, it's about Leadership Academy. But it's really the reason why I decided to advance with the company. As soon as I went into Owen's office, I talk about this a little bit later, but I wasn't really like 100% ongoing branch. I was kind of just like, all right, like, let's do Leadership Academy. Let's see what it is all about. But I didn't realize like how much of a big deal it really was and how it could really impact my life in a positive way. So Leadership Academy is pretty much just like the program through fall and spring semester that helps students develop personal, professional, and financial life skills. So it's absolutely perfect for students that just want to improve in these 3 areas of their life. I always say that you learn all the stuff that you should have learned in high school, but instead you were learning about like the Pythagorean theorem. So I learned everything from like how to be someone that I really loved to running an interview and to creating a monthly budget for myself. So there are a lot of things that you'll learn about yourself while you're experiencing this as well. This really won't be like note heavy. It'll really be more on like my experience and my story. But if I say something twice, it probably means it's pretty important. So I'm going to have you guys think a little bit. But I bring this up because every single one of those skills will be a part of who I am right now and who I will become. So TLA has shown me how to have healthy relationships with my family, my friends, and most importantly, myself. And obviously I learned all the skills that help me not only be a manager and a leader for my team, but they'll also be incorporated to who I am as a friend, you know, or a daughter, or a future wife, a future mom to my kids. So right now, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, where do I begin with growth? You probably heard a lot from Earl and from Owen. So I would start by asking yourself, where do you want to be in the next 10 years? You know, who do you want to be? What are your morals? What are your core values? So morals and core values, 2 most important things. And I've also realized that I will always be hungry for growth, and being in that state of, you know, constantly wanting growth is so essential to someone's mental health. So all of us will always be a work in progress, and that's kind of the beauty of being surrounded by people who push you to constantly grow. If any of you have ever heard of Gina Nappy, she's a total badass in the company. She would always say that if you're not growing, you're dying. And that's literally the truest thing I've heard to this day. So first time I heard that, it was actually a quote at a team meeting I heard a little more than halfway through the summer. I was not in the best spot in my life. I was a barista at Starbucks with pretty awful mental health that didn't really see a future for myself. In fact, I remember not even wanting to go to the team meeting because it was like 25 minutes away from my house. Because, you know, back then we like drove to team meetings. We had this building called an office. So we would like go there. But as soon as I heard that quote, I knew that there needed to be change in my life and that the change started with me. So within the next 2 weeks, I was putting myself in a position to get the opportunity to interview with my division manager for TLA. Honestly, I didn't expect to be accepted. I just really wanted the experience of another interview. And I was so nervous for it. So I felt like I was growing and I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So I guess it was good. I'm pretty sure at that point I was just kind of craving growth. But while I was waiting, I was sitting with 2 other people that were interviewing for TLA too. And I met these 2 guys before, but I never really got to talk to them that much, you know. One, his name's D-Rob. The other one, you probably know, it's Thomas, who ended up, you know, we just like met there, but ended up being one of my best friends throughout the whole entire experience. So we were just kind of talking about life. Like it wasn't really anything like Vector or Cutco related. But we just like, you know, getting to know each other. If any of you know D-Rob, he's like, hey, positive touch. Like he was just trying to make me laugh. And it was weird because usually when you're interviewing, it feels like you're competing against other candidates, but that's not how it is at all here. It's literally just like constant support from everyone you know, and everyone wants you to succeed. You know, we really want to see everyone just do well because we know how great it is for somebody to really be part of this. And it's way bigger than just the company. Earl actually kind of touched on it a little bit. If you really didn't believe that we weren't just about the knives, you're in for a treat because yeah, Cutco's pretty cool, but Cutco is able to create this type of environment for young adults like us to develop ourselves personally, professionally, and financially, and have an incredible experience in the meantime. And it was awesome because the time I saw the most growth in myself was in November to March. So in Moore's office, right in the heart of Leadership Academy, where I was in the process of meeting all these other people that were going into management that had the same goals and the same mindset that I had. And it was so refreshing to me. I was just never surrounded by that ever in my life. I was finally able to like see how toxic my current friend group was and what I needed to do to grow out of that and create a better circle of influence for myself. So that's kind of all of on the personal side of what Leadership Academy did for me as like a human, not even like a manager. But now being the typical 19-year-old who likes nice things, I never knew how to manage my money. And that was something that I also needed to improve on a lot. So especially if I wanted to be successful at this whole adulting thing, There was no way I could have gone into a branch, not knowing how to spend my money and where to save it. I had to figure out how to invest and where I should be investing and able to make a profit for the summer. And coming from a championship team, my mindset was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Like, I'm not going to half-ass it. So TLA gave me all the skills I needed to be successful. And then over winter break, I was actually able to like test them out in Paige's office, which was helpful. I ran my first interview, training, PC, phone jam before I even knew where my office was going to be. So before I knew it, that and Leadership Academy helped me become more than ready. Don't worry, I talk about my experience as an assistant manager in Owen's office too. I have a lot of love for you, Morris. So I say that for reassurance for anyone who is like me. When you heard branch, you're probably like, oh, I could never. Like, that's too much work. But literally think about the sales rep position. You get out what you put into the job. The more you work on your skills for phoning and demos, the more money you'll make and the more successful you'll be overall. So it's the exact same thing, but just in management. You'll get all the training and the experience you need, and you'll be learning along the way. All right. I'm definitely not the perfect branch. I could always improve, and there's always room for improvement. And I'm learning how to do things differently every single week. And that's because it's that type of experience. Not everything in life is going to have the exact same output. So you need to learn how to adapt and thrive in anything that's thrown at you. You learn how to make the most of any situation you're in. So trust me, I didn't understand how much of an impact TLA and management would have on my life, but it definitely changed everything about it into a more positive and productive way. And you don't even need to run an office to be a part of TLA. You could be a part of key staff, a leader in the office, an assistant manager. You could go branch. If anyone's graduated from college or like straight out of high school, they're working, the district opportunity is completely amazing. That's the position that Lily's in. And it will literally set you up for success in any profession that you're in. I don't care what it is. All right, I major in criminal justice. That has absolutely nothing to do with sales or business, but everything I learned has helped me become such a better person in that field and has really like put me on a step up from every other person in my major and who I want to be. Now, before I go into why exactly I wanted to go branch, I wanted to tell a little bit about my stories of rep, which is mostly what happened in Owen's office and what led me to get there, because I was definitely not the top rep in my office. I wasn't like, oh, like custom for life, that's amazing, like the whole entire summer. I honestly wasn't even thinking about branch until like October, maybe. So as soon as the summer was done, I was like, sweet peace, see you all next summer. I was done. I went on yacht night. I had a great time. And I was like, I quit Starbucks. Like, I was living. It was great. But I was like, all right, like, I'm just going to go back to the vineyard, work at my other job. I was a bartender at a vineyard too. And as soon as August hit, I didn't think I still wanted to work in an office that much, just because, I was going to school. I was a full-time college student, and that changed real quick. Owen, I remember him inviting me to a team meeting on like our first phone call ever. And I was like, oh my God, like this guy is such a savage. Like, yeah, I gotta go. And in my head, I'm like, okay, like I'll visit for a little bit. I wasn't actually gonna phone. Like, I thought it'd just be cool to like meet the team. And I remember even trying to make up an excuse saying that like I was gonna be late because there was traffic from like Seton Hall to Boonton or something like that. And his response was, don't worry about being late. Like, just get here when you get here. And I was like, shit. So when I got there, it was like a brand new team, new office, new dog, which I was really excited about. But I immediately felt welcome. I didn't feel new at all. I didn't feel out of place. They invited me to team night out, and I was like, oh, I was going to go home because I live 40 minutes away. But then Thomas was like, all right, no, I'm going, like, you're going. So we go, and at the end of it, I'm like, my thoughts of really not being a part of an office went straight out the door, because Owen was like, all right, cool, see you next week. And I was like, oh, they expect me to come like every Wednesday now. And I was like, okay. So then I really like worked on my phoning skills, my demo skills, and just like becoming a better rep overall. And then I got promoted to an assistant manager position. And I was honestly still not wanting to open up an office for this upcoming summer. I just thought that it was way out of my reach and I wouldn't be able to do it. And I really just wanted to stick with Paige for a little bit longer. But I think that it was the only in conference in November. We like got to go over there, see the factory. It was really cool. And I just got so excited about that because I met people that I didn't know before. I got to see my friends from the summer, and I was just in a really, really happy place. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't I want to go out and create something like this for my own team? You know, I always loved helping people. I always loved helping them find solutions for their obstacles and be a part of the growth with them and really have an impact on their lives in a positive way. And when I looked at more at what Branch was really all about, and I was like, shit, that's exactly what it's about. It wasn't about like the sales or the amount of people you had on your team or when you started or how prepared you really were. It was just about how much of an impact you made on the people that you met that summer. So for me, it was about doing the absolute impossible, and it was pretty unique for this summer, opening up a business in the middle of a pandemic and being able to give that opportunity to young adults in my community. And honestly, I'm so, so grateful every single day for making the decision to go Branch instead of staying back and being an assistant manager, because it forced me to really grow out of my shell and really put my skills that I learned to the test. You know, making the commitment to go Branch meant that I would be doing something incredible for not only myself, but the people that I came across through the journey. We actually, and I got this part from my letter of commitment. So like in the winter, we write a letter of commitment, whether like we're going Branch or DM or assistant manager, whatever. So I said, my mission is to impact my students as effectively as I could and open their eyes to who they could become. And this is like before pandemic Corona was even a thing. So whether they're here for a short time or the long run, I wanted to change their life. I wanted them to look back 5 years from now and say, that was one of the biggest highlights of not only their summer, but their life. You know, when you're a manager, that's the type of potential you have. You have all of the power to be that change in someone's life. And that was just so cool for me. That was like perfect for me. So could I have, you know, like kept selling for the summer? Yeah, of course. I had fun doing it last year. It was great. But I knew that there was something more out there for me, that I just knew I had to do this, because if not me, then who? You know, like if not when, then, or if not now, then when? Like when was I going to do it? You know, I wasn't too involved in school, and this was the one thing that I got really, really passionate and fired up about. And it's the best decision I've made so far. Going Branch definitely helped me live with a purpose and gave me clarity on what I wanted my life to look like. Not only now, but like for the future too. So after saying all that and how amazing the Branch opportunity is, you're probably like, all right, how do I even get there? So here's what you can take away and start implementing right now, like right after this event. The first tip I would have for you is, if you're not already, start treating the job like a job. Use the flexibility of your schedule to your advantage in the right way. If that means that you're busy on Thursday, that's perfect. Like take off Thursday, you're your own boss, but just make sure that you phone really hard on Wednesday. You set up a great Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and you can have a killer finish for your week. And it's literally so simple. Like I always say, the job isn't easy, but it's very simple. You know, you get to work whenever you want. So at the beginning of each week, just create your schedule for the next 7 days. Put in when you're busy, put in when you want to have time to yourself or time to your family, or, you know, and then put in the times where you want to do demos, and make it a mission to hold yourself accountable and to complete a certain number of demos that you do each week. I would also say step up in the office. If you're not on key staff, ask your manager how you can get on key staff, or where you really need to improve in. They absolutely love getting asked those questions because we're teachers, we're leaders. We love when people start implementing the stuff that we're saying, because it means that it's powerful and that it's working. And the second tip I have for you is create some goals for yourself. All right, this one is so important. Create some goals for yourself. I got really excited about working on me because I really wanted to grow to not only be a better person for myself, but also a better person for the people that I was going to welcome onto my team that summer. And, you know, whether or not you're going Branch or not, or you want to be an assistant manager or not, you also have people that look up to you in your personal life, whether you know it or not. I always say I have like a 6-year-old neighbor constantly looking at me, constantly seeing what I'm doing. And I'm just making sure that there's like a good outlet that she can go to, and there's like a mirror there. Like she can see herself turning into me. And I want that to be a good person. So it's all about the skills that you gain. Now, I would recommend choose one long-term goal that you're going after for. And whether it's that's how much income you want to have by the end of the year, or how much income you want to have by next year, or the skills that you gain. Is it about like what you can provide for your family or for yourself? And then once you have that one long-term goal that gets you really fired up, gets you so pumped that you just want to go out, doesn't even matter, like you don't need any caffeine, you just want to do 10 demos all at once to go crush it. As soon as you get that goal, then you can start making weekly goals or just short-term goals related to the long-term one. They're kind of just like a checkpoint so that you can make sure that you're on track for your long-term goal. And this will really set you up for success. And then lastly, just trust the process. Don't overthink it like I did. I definitely overthought it a lot. And then I think there was a time where I was just like, all right, like I need to chill. Like it's going to work out. Focus on being better than the week before. You know, take it week by week. Have fun in the process and just be so committed to your growth that you're willing to say no without guilt and yes without fear. All right, I'm going to say that one more time because I really like that quote. Be so committed to your growth that you're willing to say no without guilt and yes without fear. And if you decide to open up a door to growth, you will fall in love with the process of becoming the very best version of yourself. And that's kind of what I learned throughout my experience so far as being a branch manager and everything leading up to that. So I hope you got something out of that. I hope you enjoyed it and it hit home with some of you. If you guys have like any questions whatsoever on branch or TLA or anything like that, I wanted to share my phone number with you guys. You can shoot me a text, anything like that. But yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate you, Sam. So everyone, yeah, we could give it up for Sam. So I would say one of the things that like actually really popped in my head about that is you find like pride when someone that you worked with, like seeing their growth. So I could tell you right now, like Sam's always been amazing and a badass, but like we haven't really talked in a couple months other than some text messages. And the amount that like you could hear her growth is something that like is so exciting for me as, you know, as a manager. Like that's one of the things that I love about the Vector opportunity. So it actually reminded me of a text that when Billy came back and he watched Lily run a section of training for the first time when he came back, he sent me this text, right? He said, Lily's grown so much as a leader. Personal growth in Vector is real. And I said, yeah, she's a badass. She's becoming more and more confident, finding her voice more and more. And he said, yeah, she used to copy you. Now she's applied your lessons and curtailed it to her own life. Curtailed is a solid word, by the way. I don't think I've ever used it. But one of the things that I would implore you to is like, don't think about where you are now and like limit your thinking for the future. Think about what you can do to develop yourself and where you could be over the next few months. And one of the biggest things that Earl says that I agree with all the time is by the way, is Sam still spotlighted? Because I might need to spotlight myself. One of the things that I would say that I think is very accurate is just put yourself in a position of choice, right? You don't need to make a decision now, but what you should do is you should put yourself in positions where you have multiple opportunities available to you. And then you can go out and you can figure out which one's the best for you. So thank you, Sam. I really appreciate your time. And if you want me to talk to your team for anything, let me know. And I would gladly give a talk on something.
I will. They think you're really cool.
Awesome. I tricked them, right? I fooled them. So, all right. So I'm going to go through what a push is. Obviously, some of you know what a push is. And I want to go through why this push. So in 2 weeks, I want to say 2 weeks. It's like literally 2 weeks. Is today Tuesday? Yeah, it's like 2 weeks away from today. We start the SC2 push, right? So what is a push? A push is a contest period where basically you treat the job like a job, or at least raise your intensity a little so that you can go after a goal. It's the opportunity to earn more, learn more, and become more than any other time of the year. At the end of it, there is a countdown contest where every rep competes against other reps. We compete against other office. And we, as a division, we compete against other divisions. There's little prizes and big prizes that you could win depending on your results. And it really, why push yourself, right? Obviously, everyone has different reasons, right? So for certain people, it might be to win stuff, right? I always say my saying, right? If it's free, it's for me, right? I love free stuff. It's funny how like there's certain times during a push, I like sold $15,000 or $20,000 so I could win a free $300 TV, and was like not even thinking about like the $8,000 I made, right? I was just like, this TV, right? The second thing, honestly, if you're competitive, it's competition. I love competition. My favorite thing is competing. I was gonna say beating people, but I feel like that's like aggressive. Like I love competing. I love competition. I actually, I had an assistant manager a few years ago. Her name's Nikki Rodriguez. She was pre-med at Boston College at the time. And I had her give a talk at a team meeting, and she's like the goofiest human being on this planet. And one of the things that she said that like literally I thought was awesome is she said, I grew up as a competitive swimmer and I had injuries, so I couldn't swim in college. And all of a sudden I lost the opportunity to compete. And when I found Vector, I found that opportunity again. And that's one of the things that I'm grateful for from this experience, right? It's an opportunity to earn more, right? Raise your income, hit promotions, right? Learn more, compress time frames, and get more experience, to become a leader, right? To inspire others through your actions, to create a name for yourself, division in your office, in your division, in your region, right? Like other people look at reports and like obviously this is the SE2 conference isn't in person, but there will be in-person conferences, and it's a good feeling when you introduce yourself to someone at a conference and they're like, oh, you're insert name, right? Like or when you meet other managers and they're like, oh, I've been wanting to, I want my kids to meet you, whatever. Like that's always pretty cool, right? I would say for me, one of the biggest regrets is looking back and not necessarily committing as much as I could have, because I deprived myself of the opportunity to really find out what I was capable of. Right. And that's something that for me is a big regret. And one of the reasons I work hard as a manager, because I would say one of the worst feelings is not actually knowing what you're capable of. Right. And there were a lot of times as a rep, I was afraid to fall short of a goal, or I was afraid to look silly or like waste time or whatever. And one thing that I'll tell you is that I never feel bad about working hard and trying something. The times that I feel bad or have regret are the times where I didn't do something. I didn't try, right? I would say one of the biggest things that you get from a push is you get the opportunity to raise your capacity. So I used the square and arrow tools. You see this one? I made this slide here, guys. Yeah, I'm pretty good at slide making now, by the way. So the way that it works is your self-image, the way that you see yourself determines the level of belief that you have, that you can go out and accomplish things, right? Your belief in any situation, right? So for example, if you see yourself as a highly capable human being, right? You might believe that you could go out and have a $20,000 push, right? Then your belief is going to create your action, right? Like what you do is going to be determined by the value that you see in the time that you invest. Yada, what's up?
Not sharing your screen.
Oh, damn. Thank you. I appreciate that. I
literally was about to text Lily and she texted me. I was like, okay, we're on the same page.
All right. Well, I mean, like, what was everyone else doing when I was like talking about myself? I literally had
his arrows.
I shared my screen the whole time. I was sharing. Thanks, Sean. So I literally had this screenshot up. Nobody said anything. You guys are animals. All right. You guys are animals. Now I know that I can't trust any of you except for Yada. Yada, you're back on my good list.
And Lily.
So your self-image creates your belief, right? Your belief creates your actions. Your actions create your results, which in turn goes back into your self-image, right? And out of these four, there's only one that you can actually just like immediately change. And what is that? What is it?
Action.
Actions, right? So by putting yourself in a situation where you're pushing yourself to do more, right? A lot of the times you find out, oh shit, you get bigger results, right? And then you say, oh wow, I'm capable of more. Maybe I shouldn't limit my belief, right? I should think bigger. And what you do is you grow yourself, you raise your capacity. And the reality is your mind is like a rubber band, right? So like, let's say after a push, you go back, right? You go back to working normally, but you're always expanded from that. You always feel that, right? Anytime you go through something tough in life, you're going to be able to like look back on that and say, if I went through this, I could do this, right? Everyone has those events, right? For me, it was like college football, like our camps, right? Or whatever it is. The more that you put yourself in those situations where you do tough things, the more that you know you're capable of surviving tough things, right? I would say push is the most fun time of every year, right? I told you about the survey already. People thrive in an environment of accountability and raise their expectations. And honestly, my favorite parts of pushes are that they allow people an outlet to prove how tough they are, right? That to me is the truth. Is my mentality is you may be smarter than me, you may be better looking than me, you may be better educated than me, you may come from money, you may have opportunities afforded to you that I might not have had afforded to me, but you're not tougher than me and you can't outwork me. Right? That's just my mentality. Like you can't outwork me, right? Other managers, they might have like theories and that type of stuff, and a lot of them, they're like, hey, what's your secret? I'm like, I work hard. I work very hard, right? And I love finding out who's tough and who's all talk, right? Pushes separate people and you find out who makes excuses and who makes shit happen. And I love that. I love pushes, right? So why is this push important to us? This one is personal. We haven't won this push since 2015. And you know what? We're doing awesome this summer. We deserve to be first place, right? So here's a little bit of history, right? For Morris, at about 200 offices, 170 or 180 in the Northeast region, 2014, first 8 months, 2 months in, we were the number 3 office in the region, right? 2015, our first full year, we beat second place by $50,000. We beat second place by $50,000. We had the number 1 overall rep. We had the number 1 new rep. We had the number 1 field trainer. We had the number 1 district team. And they did a raffle for a red homemaker and Brian on our team won it. And I literally heard Gerbert Martinez go, the rich just keep getting richer, right? And you know how fun it is when you take every trophy home? I fucking love that, right? 2016, we finished number 2, right? 2017, we finished number 2. 2018, we finished number 2. 2019, we finished number 3. Where are we going to finish this year? Right? This is like, so SC1 is practice. It's regular season. This is playoffs. This is Super Bowl, right? In terms of our district team, 2014, we finished number 1. 2015, we finished number 1. 2016, we finished number 1. 2017, we finished number 1. 2018, we finished number 1. 2019, we finished number 1. Right now, there's 2 other offices that are going to compete with us. This isn't going to be the first year that we don't take number 1 as a district team, right? This is going to be the best team we've ever had, right? And if we do the right things, right, we have leaders step up, we go after it, we set it up the right way, we are going to do something special. Our goal is $350,000. That scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. That really scares me. But what that's going to look like for our growth, development, right? The momentum, the possibility, like people finding out that they're capable of more, it's going to be 100% worth it, right? So why should this be important to you? This is the only time that we will ever have the team that we currently have, right? The growth that you're going to experience by taking things more serious will exponentially increase the results and capacity, not only for this summer, but like if you take it seriously, it could impact you for years to come, not the rest of your life, right? Those who learn how to push now are going to overcome other obstacles in their life, right? I've been saying this a lot recently is one of the things that I've been saying a lot is that you need to do things that are tough because life doesn't get easier, right? It's just a reality. Like I've been making the joke, I literally have a dog and I could barely like teach him to poop outside. Imagine having kids, right? Your life is not going to be easier as you get older. Life becomes more difficult as you get older. The good news is you could do things now so that you are way more capable of handling any of the situations that come up, right? I'm not gonna lie to you. These are my notes from last year at our division meeting to kick off SE2. And I actually, verbatim, it says, if you don't push, Morris is going to kick your ass because I promise we're going to go hard. Don't look back and regret not taking it seriously when we're at the next event and we double your office. That's my mentality. I want to double people. I want someone to have not just one number before a comma. I want someone to get 2 numbers before a comma paycheck. That would be cool, right? I could tell you the first time I had that, do you think I was upset? No, not upset. Not upset. I was actually very excited. So a little bit about my push history. My first summer, some of you may have heard this story. My first summer, my manager, he made a bet with me. He's like, Owen, do you want to do a dress bet? I was a cocky 21-year-old. And I'm like, what the hell is a dress bet, right? And he's like, if you don't hit your goal, you have to wear a dress at the conference. I'm like, I guess, yeah. I think I got like a K-bar or something if I hit my goal, right? And it was 10K. First day, I have a solid day. I say to him, you know what? How about this? I'm talking shit to the people in my office. I like competition, right? Like I wanted them to do well. I wanted them to think bigger. And I'm like, how about this? How about if I'll wear a dress if I'm not number 1 in the office, right? And that next day, I total my car, right? And I hit 10K for the push. But this girl from my office, Jocelyn Figueroa, got so excited about me in a dress that she literally had a page in her binder, the picture of me with a dress drawn on, shared it with every one of her customers. She sold $12,000. First time I ever met Earl on stage in front of 700 people, I was wearing a dress. It was basically a shirt and my boxers because like there wasn't a dress that was gonna fit me, but I wore a dress. My second summer, I moved up to Morris County. I didn't sell until right before SC2, maybe like a week or 2 before, because I was helping Rob start the office. I started the push with 17 names and numbers to call. And our Sunday fun day, all day phone jam, I called 17 people, probably 7 times each from 7 different phones. I used my phone and then one of the office lines, another office line, switch phones. And I ended up booking maybe 8 demos. I committed to $10,000 for that push. I went out, I did those demos, I got referrals, I came right back to office, I booked more demos. I sold $17,000 in 17 days, starting with 17 people to call. I finished with 500 and something referrals, right? My third summer, I went really hard at first. I sold $8,000 the first 3 days. And the 4th day, I woke up to news that my grandfather passed away, right? And I would say that I use that as a way to give up on my goals, my commitment, and kind of my team, like what I was working towards. And looking back, so my grandfather was old school Italian, right? He was born in Italy. He moved here. He was like part of Mussolini's youth and like moved here. He always told us that he swam the 7 seas, which felt legit. But I don't like if you actually know anything about maps, that doesn't make any sense. But I thought he did. He dropped out of school in 8th grade. He worked his way up. He was the first person in the United States that used color advertisements in the newspaper. Multi-millionaire, super successful. Passed away at 99 and worked the week before he died. Still owned his business and worked the week before he died. And the one thing that he was so proud of me for was work ethic. Was like, working and stuff. And I realized that instead of, it took me a while, right? But I realized with a few days left that instead of using that as something to push me away, like obviously I should spend some time with my family and stuff, but I should use that as a motivation to finish strong. I recommitted the last 4 days. I sold $18,000. And one thing that I'll say is that there were times that I wish I went after like larger goals, but I questioned if it was worth it, if I would fall short, if I look silly, right? And what I realized is that falling short of a goal is not failing. Quitting on yourself or not even allowing yourself to take a shot at success is failure, right? I never felt bad about working hard for something. I regret the times that I didn't even try, right? The worst feeling is not knowing what you're capable of, but playing always beats sitting on the bench. Right? Playing always beats sitting on the bench because at least you can learn, right? Why is this push? What makes this push different? This is big boy and girl push, right? This is the entire region. This is the Super Bowl of Cutco, right? This is bragging rights for the entire year. This is the opportunity to impose our dominance, right? Everyone here is way more experienced than they were for SC1. Honestly, SC1 is like warm up. right? It's a little bit of practice to see what it's like to kind of push. But this one, we're going to set up the right way. So one of the things that we're going to do for those of you who are excited to really set it up the right way is next Tuesday. I'm going to give you this time later. We're going to do like a 2-hour alliance meeting to go over all the expectations and set up the right way, right? We're going to expand names list. I'm going to teach you something called the miracle finish. We're going to send out emails and have social media templates ready to go to get things going. You're going to have a full schedule as a team. We're going to be prepared and like we execute. That's just how it is. So how do you crush a push? You figure out your obligations during that time frame that could take you away, right, from your goals and anything that you would need to accomplish over that time frame, and you plan them at times that won't take away from your success. So you start getting ready for it now, right? You get things out of the way. You figure out your goal, your plan, and your why, right? And if you need help figuring these things out, talk to your manager. You have no clue how exciting it is for us when a rep comes up to us and asks us with help in terms of any of those things, right? You commit to phone time during a push pretty much daily. I talked about it earlier. Like, imagine if you treated the job like a full-time job, what you could create, or if you committed to a certain amount of calls that you were going to make on a daily basis, right? Next thing is you step out of your comfort zone, right? I said it earlier, the people who see the most success are those who have the largest comfort zones. And the only way to grow your comfort zone is to step outside of it, right? Are you not comfortable on the phone? Some of you aren't. That's because you suck at phoning. It's the truth, right? Some of you suck at phoning, right? The only way to get good at phoning is just commit to it, right? If you always treat it like more than it is, right? And you don't just accept that it's a skill that you're capable of mastering, you're never going to enjoy it, right? In order to get the results that you've never gotten, you need to do things you've never done and become someone that you are not currently, right? A quote that I love is sacrifice who you are today for who you will become, right? Find ways to improve, learn the script, ask your manager or top reps for advice, go field training and bring people field training, watch videos or listen to audios on Vector Connect or Morris Mayhem, right? Ask your manager for videos or audios to listen to, record your demos, listen to them, share them with others, right? Read or listen to things that will help you grow personally because that will help you grow professionally also. Focus on your habits, be intentional about growth because it doesn't happen accidentally. And then just find a way to make shit happen, right? Sticky note your neighborhood. Ask friends or parents to help you book demos. Call some of the people that make you uncomfortable. Leapfrog on your demos. That's when one of your demos, you have them three-way call another customer and see if you could book a demo for right after it, right? Go to the office and make calls if you don't have demos or hop on Zoom. We'll be on Zoom all day basically during the push, right? One of the, knock on a couple of your neighbors' doors. We're all capable of more than we're doing or have done. And that's why pushes excite me because it gives me and you the opportunity to learn about yourself or me to learn about myself, the people that I have the pleasure working with on a daily basis. And then just lastly, make a commitment to the process. You don't win a 20-day push in a day, right? You create success by being the best version of yourself for 20 days in a row, right? So a quote that I love is, when you do what others won't, you can soon have what others can't, right? Really, we have such an amazing team. I'm so excited for this push because this is what's going to take us that next level, right? So some upcoming stuff. So the SC2 Alliance, it's next Tuesday, it's 10 to 12. I'm going to go through some stuff at the team meeting, but this is just like for the top people that really want to prepare and all of that stuff. The second thing is I want to do a fun office event, like for everyone where maybe, is it supposed to rain this Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's very unfortunate. So I would love it if people I want to get some food catered for the office. We have like a big parking lot. It would have to be a Saturday or Sunday though. Obviously.
So it said it was supposed to rain. Now it's saying it's cloudy with a small chance of rain. So it might not.
All right, whatever. We'll figure that out. I want to figure out a time where I'll get food catered and get cornhole, badminton, that type of stuff. We'll just hang out and You know, it's just dudes being bros or whatever that guy said. Sunday fun day to kick off the push. All day Sunday fun day is July 12th. There's a division meeting. I'll get you specific times. It's July 13th. That's the first day of the push. The push, I would write this down if I were you. I'd probably write all of these down if I were you. But the push is July 13th through August 5th. August 5th, it ends. We have a conference. The conference is going to blow your mind. You're going to hear from not only probably myself, I'll probably say something there, but you'll hear from like the top people in the entire region, right? We'll have a countdown. We'll be competing. It's to be a lot of fun, right? And the 4th of July is, I was going to write July 4th, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write Saturday, right? So the 4th of July, this is one of the last things, and then I'm going to wrap it up. But the 4th of July is this Saturday. So one thing, I have a couple things for everyone, right? The first thing is, do you think that that people buy stuff on holiday weekends? Yes, right? So if you think about it, every holiday weekend is when there are tons of sales. 4th of July, Memorial Day, whatever. Those are sales. People are in good moods. They have fun. They get bonuses. They have extra days off. I would also say, honestly, a lot of times people are drunk. And I don't know if you guys know this, but drunk people love buying things. It's actually science. That's actually a fact. I don't know if you guys know that, right? So this is a couple things that I would say for you. I don't care what your plans are this weekend. What I care is that you have a plan for this weekend, right? So if you're going to go away this weekend, set up a strong start to the week and get to 1 or 2K by the end of the day, Friday. So there are actually 2 contests going on, right? Contest number 1 is June 30th. Holy shit. This is today through July 6th, right? The person, right? So reps over 2K for the week are entered into a drawing for a grand prize. If you sell over 4K, you earn 3 chances, right? And the grand prize is either the trip to Cabo or $500 cash. I would probably do that, right? Like I would probably want to be in that. So this is one of the things that I've learned is I used to be like, oh, raffles, who cares about raffles? And one of the things I learned is you got to be in it to win it, right? And raffles are actually lots of fun, right? There's also, if you sell over $1,000, all reps over 1,000 will be entered into 1 of 5 drawings for either 4 table knives with a tray or a Santoku style cheese knife ice cream scoop combo. You choose whichever one you want. Bang, right? Raffle number 1 and 2, right? Well, actually, I guess 6. There's 6 raffles right here, right? Who wants another raffle? Tell me you want another raffle. Yeah, only 3 of you. All right, then no other ones don't. So you want a chance to win $100? Sell $1,000 by Friday between today and Friday, and you get entered into a drawing. And for every $1,000 you sell, you get an extra drawing. So this is one tip that I have for everyone in terms of selling on the 4th of July is, one thing is, it might be a little more difficult at times to book a couple demos, but it's worth it. Every demo you book will be absolutely worth its weight in gold. I promise you, right? That's where you're going to have your biggest sale ever. I think Lily had a 3K or 4K day, which was at the time her biggest day ever. She sold her first signature, some other stuff. We had a rep on our team last year who went to a family barbecue, whose 1 amp bought a signature, her 1 amp bought a flatware chest. She had a 6-7K day. Her name Rachel. I think she only sold 12K the whole summer, and 7K of it was on the 4th of July. My suggestion for you is make it, as long as you don't have tons of plans. The cool thing about virtuals is even if you're down the shore or whatever, chances are you probably do a couple things. So my suggestion to you is commit to either 2 before 2 or 3 before 3. Right, so 2 demos before 2 o'clock or 3 demos before 3 o'clock, right? So the reason I say that is most people are not going hard at 1 in the afternoon, right? And if they are, let me know where you are. Let's have, whatever. But so most people aren't. So you know what makes the afternoon more fun? If you know you made $500 or $1,000 that morning, right? That makes it afternoon way more fun. So if you committed to booking 2 demos before 2 o'clock or 3 demos before 3 o'clock, and then you go out, you go to your barbecues, you watch your fireworks, you take pictures of fireworks, and put them on Snapchat, which nobody's going to watch, guys. That's my public service announcement. Don't take, like, no one cares about your firework videos, right? We all have seen fireworks. Don't upload, like, nobody gives a shit about don't put them on Instagram or whatever. They're fireworks, right? Everyone else is looking the same shit. But do 2 demos before 2 or 3 demos before 3. Like I said, the cool thing about the job is the flexibility, but make a decision now, have a plan going into this weekend, commit to your midweek, and then plan around all the other things that you have going on. And it will absolutely be worth your time. So I have a quick survey that I'm going to post in the chat that I want everyone to fill out real quick. So mayhem.com/LA. God damn it. What was that? I know I did it. So hold on. Why? Oh yeah, there's not supposed to be a J in there. All right. So it's a quick survey that I want everyone to fill out. Before that, is everyone still with me? I probably should have said it. So assignments. Post your top takeaway from today in your office group me. Text your manager and let us know what your thoughts are, what your goal is by the end of the day Friday. Actually, you don't even need to do the end of the day Friday because I put that on the form. Win the day. Let's make the week great. And if you're from Morris or Middlesex and you have not filled out like your weekly goal form, fill that out. Obviously, everyone knows we have the team meeting tomorrow night at 6:30, but I want everyone to stay on and fill out that survey real quick, and then you can hop off. Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like leapfrogging. Is that something that you're going to talk about in the future, or like how would I go
talk
about
about that next week at the Alliance meeting at Tuesday, 10 to 12. I'm going to talk about a bunch of shit that's going to blow your mind. Like where your mind used to be.
2 pairs of socks.
Yeah, you're going to want at least 2. Yeah. Maybe boots, steel toe boots. Any other questions? Cool. Do we all feel good? I know that today was probably long for a bunch of you, but I appreciate you and I hope everyone got value from it.